Hello, Venkata sir, Rajiv sir, am I audible?
Yes, Azad. Can hear you. You can hear me, right?
Sir, you are not audible, sir. Venkata sir, if you are speaking something.
Okay. I am speaking. Rajiv, can you hear?
I can hear both of you.
Okay.
So, Azad, is it a problem on your end?
Yeah, I can hear you as well, Rajiv. And
Just a second, sir.
yeah,
Just a second.
I
Let me
can hear
check
as well.
why I cannot hear you. Venkata sir, Rajiv sir.
Yes, Azad.
Yes, now I can hear you.
Okay, great. You can hear me as well, right?
Yeah. So I think Ragini has briefed you in the other meeting, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So we're going to start at 9:30 with the
Uh,
first group.
yeah. We'll start with the first group by 9th.
So it'll be about 15 minutes presentation, 5 minutes Q&A, and then the other 5 minutes is for us to discuss about the internally about the presentation and scoring. Is that how it's going
Uh,
to be?
No, so like what will happen is that 15 minutes for the presentation, 5 minutes Q&A, and after that the other 5 minutes is like kind of a buffer for next
Uh,
team to arrive and to like
got it.
just let's say someone outstages his or her presentation.
Okay, got it.
The discussion part can happen like after all the teams are done, right? Because this will be the live, the whole thing is live on YouTube.
Okay. So the discussions is towards the last. Probably that's what is in the last hour.
Yeah, right. So team 16, can you raise your hand? Hello, team 16. So, sir, like the sequence will be first team 16 will be going to present, after that 17 and then 19. Right.
Okay.
Uh, Priya, I hope a whole team is here, right? If you can confirm on the chat or something. Okay, cool. So team 16 will give you the mic access shortly, sir, and like there will be like a buzzer, and other teams also should note this at 13th minute, which is kind of like a notification that you have 2 minutes left, right? So all the teams need to cover up their presentation within the 15 minutes time frame, and after then we'll open the floor for the Q&A session for the judges and the team. So I see Priya, Rishabh, and Shashwat, like they have raised hand. So, like, is there anyone else? Okay, there's one more, Isha Bhatt. Uh, so, like, four of them are waiting. Like, is there a fifth person joining? Team 16. Also, Venkata sir and Rajiv sir, like we have like I guess Ragini has sent you the scoring sheet, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Team 16, can every one of the presenters please raise hand? Yeah, okay. So I guess the whole team 16 is here. So I repeat: Priya, Rishabh, Srivastava, Shaurya, and Shrinias, right? So like we'll be providing handover mic to just five of them as mentioned in the rule. So yeah, okay, I'll just admit everyone. So hi team 16. I'll just brief you about some basic rules. So yeah. So there will be a bell that will go on at 16th minute just to notify you that there are 2 minutes remaining, and at the last 10 seconds we'll also notify you that there are last 20 to 10 seconds remaining. and you have to wrap up your presentation within 15 minutes. And after that, there will be a following Q&A round where judges will ask you questions. And after that, you can stop presenting, and then you can conclude your presentation. Right. I'll just give you
Okay.
the presentation rights. Like to whom should I give the presentation rights?
That would be me, sir. Shortly for my runner.
Okay.
So may I present my screen?
Yeah, go on. You can present.
So is it presenting?
Yeah. So I'll just tell start, and you can start your presentation.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Venkata sir, Rajiv sir, we are good to go, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Team 16, you can start now.
Good morning, everyone. We Team 16 would like to present our solution on Blue Yonder's supply chain problem statement. In the platform of COP 2026, India took oath to become carbon neutral by 2070. The changes in climatic conditions have been of great concern. Supply chains have the greatest room for improvement to meet sustainable goals. Supply chain impacts around 80% of greenhouse emissions and around 90% of the impact on air, water, land, biodiversity, and geological resources. The story of a product ordered from an e commerce store online goes through five stages, from supplier to manufacturer to distributor. And while the retailer is an important part of the supply chain system, it has been replaced by the delivery person. And finally, the customer. The returns use reverse of this logistics and is an important part. Breaking down the net carbon contribution, the procurement cycle produces 3,000 tons of carbon emissions, which is only 16% of the total. Manufacturing contributes around 43%, warehousing about 8, and end mile delivery about 11%. Transportation contributes a heavy 20% of the total carbon emissions. Data from various sources have confirmed that companies involved in supply chain management are responsible for roughly 33 gigatons of carbon dioxide emissions. We have explored three solutions which can help optimize the supply chain system. Our first solution is eKatra.
Good morning, respected jury. I would be now telling you about a solution to warehousing. Warehousing in general is a very expensive solution due to high capital costs. We would be dealing with this with the help of a shared warehousing model facilitated with Economy. Ekatra will be an ML based SaaS product that connects your e commerce, irrespective of the company's size, to the most optimal consolidation center suited to your business needs. It will integrate with the company's data and will give insights on the company, irrespective about their inventory in the warehouse via a dashboard, making the company's business much simpler. Ekatra is based on consolidation warehouses. Consolidation warehouses, as the name suggests, are used for the consolidation or collection of different parcels before the end mile delivery. This model is currently used by Amazon and other big box giants but is inaccessible to small e commerce companies due to significant capital investment. We can construct new consolidation warehouses depending upon the need. I would be now telling you about the significant benefits of Ekatra. Ekatra will help us reduce the delivery time to quite an extent. The cost of shipment and the units will also decrease. The return system will also be the return system will also be eased and the traffic will be reduced to quite an extent. Lastly, the most important aspect is that the carbon footprint reduces to quite an extent. Now I would be telling you about the basic flow of Ekatra. Ekatra is such a platform which will integrate small e-commerce companies or suppliers with warehouses. These suppliers will be onboarded onto the group of e-commerce companies. The warehouses will be spread everywhere across different regions. We can also onboard third-party warehouses to expand our network if the need arises. The e-commerce companies will feed the past data of their company to Ekatra in the form of a .csv file or an Excel file. The suitable machine learning algorithm analyzes the data fed. Using this data, the algorithm will calculate which region gets most orders and will also suggest products of higher demand for that region. It will also predict which is the best SKU in terms of demand and supply. Based on these inferences and insights, it will suggest to the company which warehouse will be best suitable for the company's business. The companies will book the warehouse through Ekatra and decide the various parameters of the warehousing process, like rate of the warehouses, rent to be paid for hiring the warehouses, amount of time for which the warehouses will be used, etc. After this, the company will ship their inventory to the warehouse. The company website will be integrated with Ekatra so that the new shipments are directly sent to the warehouse and the company will save the hassle of managing the orders. We also took an example of a shipment from Kolkata to Noida, and we calculated that Ekatra helps in decreasing the delivery time by 60%, the costs decreased by 24%, and the average time to recover costs of a warehouse was 1.5 years. The profits per warehouse after break even was 7.3 crore. Therefore, it can be easily concluded that Ekatra is a boon for small e-commerces. Now, I would like to invite Priya to tell about our transportation
Good morning.
solution.
Essentially, our economy depends on trucks bringing goods where they need to be cheaply and reliably transported. Those same trucks generate a considerable amount of pollution that must be reduced. Now, one of the heaviest shortcomings in the management of traditional internal combustion engines is the huge amount of energy lost during braking. That is, braking systems discard as heat to the atmosphere about one third to one half of the energy of the power plant. Next slide, please. Hence, the stop-start nature of driving urban or congested routes leads to excessive fuel consumption and emissions. By capturing energy during braking, storing it in graphene ultracapacitors, and then using this recovered energy to help power the next acceleration, KERS, that is, retrofittable kinetic energy recovery system for heavy good vehicles, depending upon mechanical, pneumatic, or electric depending on the scalability, can reduce fuel consumption and CO2 emission on these cycles. Also, we have done a cost analysis based case study on the flywheel, that is mechanical KERS, and deduced that the improvement in fuel efficiency due to incorporation of the system came out to be 24.45%, a substantial amount, advocating the addition of this system to commercial vehicles in the Indian subcontinent. Moving forward with our next solution, Vendex.
Uh, Good morning, respected jury present here. So I would like to present our last mile solution Vendex. Suppose you are in a situation that you are in an office and your delivery boy is calling again and again, please pick up your order. You are on a trip and your delivery boy call you two to
Hey,
three times.
hey, hold on. I think some of you are in the same room, and actually both of your mics are on. Can one of you, who was not speaking, turn off your mic?
Yeah.
Okay, I think we can continue now.
Sorry for the problem, sir.
No issues.
Okay. So suppose you are in your office and your delivery boy is calling you two to three times. Please pick up your order. Suppose you are on a trip and your delivery boy called you. Please pick up your order. And after a few times, he returned your order, which was quite very important to you. So the pain point comes that you didn't get the time and the comfort and the luxury for in the picking up of your order. So here the our solution comes, the Vendex. Next slide, please. Vendex is the automated vending machine in which we put your orders and according to your time and comfort from the location, you can just pick up your order. It's the safest, it's the safe device with the cyber safety and the physical safety also. It has a firstly, it has a limitation of size, so we would be implementing it in small to medium size of packagings and orders where we would be using special packaging types of vacuum seal packaging and the air cushion packaging which are made up of papers. Next slide, please. So for the faster adoption of Vendex, At the early stages, we would be incentivizing the customers with the lucrative cashbacks, coupons for your next orders, and also some of the offers like the free delivery for your next orders. Next slide, please. So, for the reduction of carbon footprint, as we know that 11% of the total carbon footprint of the supply chain management, we would be uh, is the end mile delivery part. So, in the end mile delivery part, we would like to reduce the that 11% part and save a lot of carbon emission from our end. Also, the special packaging would be zipline packaging, where the customer would just pick up his order from the Vendex machine and he would open it and throw the wrappers in the basket provided, which can be reused in the future stages for our packaging. Our future plan would be like that Vendex can be a single point physical source for the companies like Amazon's, Flipkart, and Walmart, where they can use it as a marketing place, and also few of their FMCG products such as drinks, chips, etc. can be directly sold to the customers. Also, a vendor program is also in our future linings where it can be a return point for the customers and also a drone servicing point where the drone dropping of the orders can took place. Next slide, please. So for the roadmap of the Vendex, for the first 6 to 12 months, we want to gather much of the customer data. So we would start from the gym hubs and campuses where instead of installing a machine, we would be we would be going through a human resource which would act like a delivery point guy where a customer could collect his order. By this, we can see the feasibility of our idea and familiarize the people with our concept. For the next 12 to 24 months, we would target the office places and highly dense residential areas of the tier 1 cities of India. For the next 24 months, we would scale up our idea to the tier 2 cities and also cover the campuses, the college campuses, the residential societies, and some of the localities of the tier 1 cities. For the success metrics, we have the 3 points. Firstly, is the activation, the first order by a consumer, which is taken through the Vendex. It is the activation. Secondly, engagement. It gives the multiple orders given by a single person, which are delivered through the Vendex machine. Thirdly, the retention. As we know, there is a subscription model going on the Amazon and Flipkart. We would see that how many customers took that subscription model through the Vendex machine. Next slide, please. So, for a case of our campus, we have taken three Vendex machine to be installed in our campus. Each costed about 75,000. So the total cost came out to be 2,54,000 of in all installation and processes, where we have taken about 9,000 orders delivered each month. So for this ideal condition, we got a break even point to of 12 months where an ideal adoption rate of 40% was required. And so for this, for the radius of 3 kilometers, just from the end mile delivery, we got a carbon reduction of about 727 kgs of CO2 each year, and also the packaging which was reused can save a much lot carbon emission from our end also. Thank you. For the next, I would like to invite Rishabh Pandey.
Hi everyone. The solutions we have provided are basically Ekatra, Index, packaging, and transportation. The main idea behind this was to provide the users a service that can be a cost impacting that can cause a cost impacting factor as well as can reduce the carbon footprint. So the Ekatra, as it's for the retailers, small retailers, for providing them a warehousing solution where they can use the unutilized space and can reduce their cost, and simultaneously the energy required, it will result in reducing the carbon footprints. Coming to the Wendix, Wendix is a customer service provider, basically in which a customer gets the facility of taking his order wherever he wants. So and coming to the aspects that how the HR will work, earlier in a normal model, usually a Vendex will be replacing four normal delivery services. So making the cost impact It will create a break even around 13 to 26 months, and the data will vary depending upon the feasibility and the adoption rate. We have assumed the adoption rate to be 30%, 30%, and 50% and 70%, depending upon the 6 month stages. Coming to the packaging, new different types of packaging have been introduced in the market. Airtight packaging is there, which reduces in volume consumption, and when optimal use of airtight packing, zipline packing can result in a sustainable way of the model. Coming to the next slide of our 5 year roadmap plan. So, Ekatra will be the first step which we'll be taking along with the Windex. In the first 2 months, the main focus will be to conceptualize, train our trainees, that how we will be functionizing for the next 5 years. The first target for the Windex will be gym products and the small lighted products which can be accustomed in our Windex and can be taken care of. Several marketing strategies will be used. Incentives will be given for them to make the Windex adoptable for everyone. For Ekatra, acquisition of new warehouses will be done, and the assembly process will be continue adding up. For the last month, we have planned the Windex to get introduced into a wind hut where a person will be there for the returning purposes also. Right now, Windex
Last 20 seconds remaining.
has been futurized for just for taking the delivery products. For returning purposes, a user is needed, a normal human is needed for that. So we have planned vendor accordingly. Thank you.
Okay, so like we can move on to the Q&A part here. Judges, like if you have any questions, you can ask to the team.
Hey, Rajiv here. So first of all, I think you guys have done a great job of thinking through a lot of these details, uh, putting together a lot of numbers and trying to think imaginatively about this whole problem. So great job. Uh, I have a few questions on each of the areas that you guys have presented on. Um, I'll start with, I think, Ikatra, which was the first one. Uh, when I was looking at your uh, write up that you had sent earlier as well, uh, and the point that it struck me was, I mean,
Sorry.
you guys are familiar with the Blue Dart or you know DTDC and DHL and all of these third party logistics providers, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Um, what is your differentiation from these third party logistics vendors when you talk about Ikatra? And how is it actually going to have a bigger impact than what the 3PL provides for small e-commerce sites? Because they
Shivansh?
provide the same services actually,
Yes, sir.
somewhat similar. So I think
So please excuse me.
you need to call out on that.
Yes,
So
sir.
actually, the DTDC, Blue Dart, and the delivery services are mostly based on the transportation only. They don't provide the inventory spaces. For our model, Ekatra is a store inventory basis model where we provide a ML based system to predict the places where we you could get the least price for your transportations and the end mile prices. Also, secondly, we would make the predictions which for the SKUs which are in high demand for the place. Also, for the onboarding, the cost for the small business, we cut it to the lowest in for the consumers.
Yeah, so again, think about the focus, right? I mean, think about it from the purpose of this whole session itself that we're having here, right? It's from a sustainable supply chain standpoint. Um, I like that part where you're talking of, helping them decide which is the best warehouse to store things at, right? That definitely is something probably is not really readily available for these small e-commerce sellers. But the 3PL does provide storage facilities as well. I just want you to guys to look at it more. There are other consolidation warehousing facilities available in India as well. So, I mean, but it's still a interesting thought in terms of how that can be extended further and actually bring more sustainability into the whole end-to-end supply chain. So, good job there. Venkat, you have any questions?
Yeah, just add on to Rajiv what you just said, right? So, two parts. One is even assuming that there is a space where there is an opportunity for uh, consolidating warehouses that will help these small e-commerces. Um, so, from your proposal standpoint, right? So, one, you are talking about a software that will give the prediction around where you may want to store the inventory. Uh, but the other piece which I could not really gather is you also need the likes of the DHLs that Raji talked about, right? Who could play the consolidator role, right? And probably your software will kind of connect the dots. Now, who is that player, right? When you're conceptualizing it as a 3 year, 5 year, right? So is that going to be the consolidator is going to be a startup, right? I was not very clear. A related aspect is the uh, cost, right? How is the cost management because multiple sellers are going to be leveraging this, and then obviously inventory is cost, right? So how is that cost going to get allocated? Um, if you guys can just a little bit touch upon it. I think I know we have a very less time for Q&A, but
So for that purpose, the where in the consolidating warehouses, we have many of the small e-commerce site which will be using our service. So they would be paying us on a per product basis, where they would be about 8 to 10 rupees per product per month basis. And for the transportation and all, we would be collaborating with the delivery DHL and all the Blue Dart services, where they would just pick up the order from our warehouse to the end mile consumer. We are just limiting ourselves currently to the inventory services, inventory and packaging services in a locality or in a particular area.
Yeah. So, thanks for those answers. Uh, moving on to Venkat, just moving on to some of the other items they had, right? Uh, on the curves, kinetic energy, whatever, I forgot the full form of that whole abbreviation. Uh, again, uh, something that I think obviously we need in India, right? A, a lot of our transportation is happening on uh, trucks, etc., which are a bit old, at least, if not very old nowadays, and most will not have this capability. Um, have you looked at what will it cost to retrofit something like this onto those trucks, right? And when we say, the retrofitting part is not only just recovering power in terms of electricity, converting or breaking into electricity, it's also in terms of uh, then feeding that electricity back into the acceleration part of it, right? It's kind of driving the engine through that, and the cost involved in kind of retrofitting that and having that supported. Have you guys looked at that?
Yes, sir. We have done the cost analysis of fitting this KR in the heavy goods vehicle. We have calculated with the as we have told that we have calculated for the flywheel, which is a mechanical KR. The price came to be around 55,000, and upon plotting the break-even point for this graph, we got to know that at within 3 years, 3.22 years, we could get the cost recovered. Also, we can
Okay.
see that in India, the time for each vehicle is 15 years. So, if it is 15 years, within 3 years, we can get the overhead cost recovered.
Mhm. Yeah, I, it's actually pretty good that way, especially if you have the resources to do this. The challenge in some cases again would be that a lot of these smaller delivery vehicles are individually owned, and they all are cash flow tight on cash flow typically. So their ability to take on a significant investment of say 55K will be a question. But otherwise, if this can be supported and funded in some form, the returns on a larger scale can be pretty significant. So pretty interesting idea. I like that.
Is there guys done any research to see if is there any capability like this that is existing today?
Yes,
Because
sir. This is being implemented by Ashok Leland in India, and few others have been already implemented in some other countries like London. There are few resources which are
because
implementing this.
if you look at if you study many of these logistics companies, right? I think they in this space there is a lot of work being done, right? They of course monitor the speed of the truck and various other parameters, right? They have speed governance, a lot of things. But then this particular aspect of the braking to acceleration and reusing the energy, at least in the conceptually, it is kind of hitting the chord around the sustainability. But of course, the to Raji's point, right? How much of capital investment the small players can make, even though they know that there is going to be a return on investment in 3 years plus uh, additional savings in fuel, is something to be thought through.
The other thing I will also add, right? I mean, in terms of how the storage is done of that braking power, the storage itself can actually, depending on what kind of, if it's a battery driven kind of model, then those batteries themselves are not necessarily a sustainable model for. I mean, there are challenges around batteries and heavy metals used in the batteries and so on. But I think you talked about capacitors and other things like
Yes.
that. So
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 that's
I don't know the details of the how those capacitors are built and what's involved. So things to be looked at over there, right?
so
But it's
we
still a
have
great idea. I mean, I'm not looking for answers. I think uh, uh, there's always going to be a lot of details in this which we cannot discuss because of time constraints. Um, but I'm sure you guys have done. I can see you guys have done a lot of research on this, so that's been great. On Vendex, uh, just a quick 2 minute thing here. I like. I mean, again, I like the thought behind it, but I'm not convinced it's actually a really going to be sustainable. Um, to me, it is more a convenience for consumers and not really a sustainability improvement,
Yeah, I agree.
right? Uh, by trying, first of all, for reducing the last mile cost, you'll actually have to have a lot of Vendex machines for a reasonably large region. For example, if you're talking of a 3 kilometer radius, you're going to have Vendex machines centrally. Then you need to have a lot of Vendex machines because there's a reasonable amount of e-commerce going on, especially in cities, large cities like Hyderabad, Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore. If not in smaller towns, smaller towns also have a lot of commerce going on. The second part is while you're cutting the cost of last mile delivery for the commerce sites, you're increasing the cost of pickup for the consumer, and each consumer is going to pick up his or her package and they're going to go individually to the Vendex machines, and that cost will have to be considered in terms of the overall impact of Vendex. Uh, in many cases, it might be on the way they'll stop, pick it up, go possibly, but there's still I think the math needs to be looked at much more closely on this one.
So please excuse me. So we try to put the Vendex in the most densely ordered areas, such as the college campuses and the office campuses and the residential societies gates, where the people who request their delivered to be Vendex through Vendex, they could just go to the office, and while they are back to their home, they can just pick up their orders. In the residential societies, we would place it near the gates, where a person coming into his house, coming into his society, can just pick up his order. Also for the campuses, they are
Shreyansh,
not so
Shreyansh,
large.
Shreyansh,
Yes, sir.
if you're going to place it at the office gate, if you're going to place it at the residential gate, Where is the cost cutting on the residence on the last mile? The
Sir,
the delivery person has to go to that point, add put it in the Vendex machine, and then go back.
yes, sir. Sir,
Sir,
for
like sorry to interrupt, but we need to wrap up next team.
Yeah, so I think just
Oh,
wrapping up comment, right? Probably real 10 seconds. I just want, of the three topics, the Vendex is probably one where I think the relevance to the sustainability was a little weak. To Raji's point, it was probably a good solution for a consumer experience than the last mile delivery, right? So I think just wanted to say the other from that.
But overall, I think again I will repeat. You guys have done a, pretty cool job and great research into all of this, and I'm sure you guys were time constrained, and with that, whatever you have put together, it's been pretty cool to look at. I mean, we enjoyed
Yeah.
it and we learned a few things as well.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah, the white paper part of the articulation of the problem statement and even the identification of the areas right around warehousing and transportation and stuff like that. I think it's great. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, judges. Thank you, team. So I'll revoking your access from the stage, team 16. And team 17, can you raise your hands?
thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Julie.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Judy.
thank you, Jyoti.
Yeah. Okay, sir. We'll just wait then. From team 17, we have Shushti, Nilay, Vasu, Yash, and Gaurav. So should I admit them, Rajesh sir, Venkata sir?
Yeah, please.
Okay. Okay. I'll just quickly reiterate the rules team here. So there will be 15, it will be a 15 minutes of presentation. At 13 minutes, you will be given a bell to wrap up it in to next 2 minutes. At last 20 seconds, we'll notify you that there are 20 seconds remaining. And after the presentation, there will be a Q&A round of 5 minutes. And the buffer time of 5 minutes that is mentioned is just that the Q&A overshoots by some little time. Then we can accommodate the time there. Right. Okay. Then team 17, you can present your screen. Who will be presenting the screen from team 17?
Nile will present, Azad.
Okay. Thank you.
A very warm welcome to all the judges here. First of all, thank you for providing such a problem statement to us, which is also a very big global issue and that every sector is facing, and it must be looked into for a better and green future. Throughout our research, we have learned a lot on an individual level. The problem statement was knowledge enriching and an eye opener of what is going around the world. Let's have a quick view on the problem statement. Here, we have to provide a feasible 5-year roadmap proposal for an environmental sustainable supply chain to achieve a significant reduction in CO2 emissions to attain the target of COP26 summit. Next slide, please. Going through the current supply chain, we'll first understand the journey of a product. Starting from the company's manufacturing unit, the product moves to the company's CNF. Further, it goes to the distribution center, and from there, it reaches the last level of the supply chain and eventually reaches the end customer. Simple, right? The major issue in the supply chain is not even being pictured. That is the carbon footprint. Next slide. For a country like India, the environmental degradation accounts for 4 to 6% of nation's GDP, leading India to stand on the third position in global CO2 emissions. According to a 2016 report by McKinsey, a remarkable 90% of consumer packaged goods impact on the environment, and more than 80% of their emissions comes from their supply chain. Next slide. So finally, we are here at what are the actual problems in the existing supply chain. Let's go through an example first. The famous example of the 400-meter cargo ship that blocked the Suez Canal in March 2021, which left the hundreds of other cargoes blocked. The reason behind this was the traceability. Traceability is the major issue in the supply chain. Apart from the logistics tracking, companies do not have the actual data of carbon footprints of the goods at each stages, which ultimately is not optimized. Along with this, inventory mismanagement, unsaleables, and counterfeit goods are also in the key. Next slide, please. We have done an analysis on the current CO2 emissions. Here we have divided the companies into two. The companies having a market cap of over 300 crores is considered as considered on a pan-India scale, while the organization below this band is considered of mid-size. And we have estimated the current CO2 emissions. So do you actually know like how many companies are actually tracking their carbon footprint? The number is devastating. It's only 10% of the companies that are doing that. And the question arises here is that most of the companies is not able to figure out the cause and not able to establish an environmental sustainable supply chain. So our proposed solution is to improve the traceability of the goods, which will fill this gap through the means of RFID scans. Yeah.
Perfect. So, as Yash has also mentioned, that we have seen and analyzed multiple problems, and from our data, we are confident that the best way to solve this problem is by going to the core of this issue, and that is definitely traceability. Our proposed solution is to track the journey of these products by introducing RFID scanners into the system. Now, these RFID scanners will track the journey of a product right from manufacturing to the retailer. It will be based upon the time, distance, and the overall transportation journey of the product. Now, this will also help improve traceability and will also aid in data collection and management. And it will also help in eliminating the counterfeit goods in the market. Next, please. But although we have devised this solution, we could have gone for a different solution. But why did we choose to cater to traceability? The first thing is that when we were solving this issue, the first issue that we faced was we did not find any numbers. It was very hard for us to find carbon CO2 emissions number and other carbon footprint. So this is a very important issue, that traceability should be introduced into the supply chain. Our team spoke to multiple companies, and one of them being Abbott Nutrition. We spoke to the employees of Abbott Nutrition, and even they said that traceability has been a big issue for them, and they are trying to work on it. Now, what will traceability do? Traceability will, first of all, make the system very, very transparent, and it will help in assisting, as I mentioned, assisting the elimination of counterfeit goods. It will also help in making better forecasting and hence reducing the wastage of packaging material. Now, other than that, now with traceability, we can also predict smart routes for logistic transportations. Next, please. Right. So this is how we are planning to track our product throughout the supply chain. We are planning to establish our RFID scanners at manufacturing unit, the CNS, the distribution center, and the retailers. Now, the RFID scanners will be set up at all these units, and they'll be scanned at their arrival and their departure, thus collecting all the data to the server. Next. Now we'll just watch a very small video on how the tracking system is actually working. Right. So the goods are being transferred from company manufacturing unit to the CNF, where it's being scanned at dispatch and arrival, and CO2 emission is being calculated based upon the distance it has traveled. The similar thing is happening with carrier and distribution center, but now it is also taking into account something called shelf life factor, so that we don't add to the wastage of materials and inventory. And it will also be scanned at retailer, and the delivery person will also be scanning it before delivering it to the consumer. Next, please. Perfect. Now, we have achieved traceability and we have gotten the data, but what are we going to do about it? So our machine learning model is going to help us with that. It is going to divide our product into 4 different types of categories. And based upon the data, on the product sales data and CO2 emissions data, our ideal products would be the one which have higher sales and lower CO2. So we'll be trying to promote these kind of products, and we'll try to reduce and eliminate products which have lower sales and higher CO2. So this will aid in optimizing the supply chain as well as reduce the wastage of at the inventory. Next, please. Correct. But to put and implement our solution, we would definitely need a big force. And this is where Blue Yonder is going to come into picture. Blue Yonder will act as a SaaS provider, and it will set up a server between all the manufacturing companies and the distribution center. Now, what will this server provide? The server will provide a login system, a login ERP system, which will be set up at all these units, and it will have features like login for the company, login for Blue Yonder, and alarm system, to maintain the timely arrival and dispatch. Next, please. This is a very small glimpse of what the ERP system will look like. So it will track the inventory, it will track the arrival, the dispatch. It will also aid you to place order, to maintain or to view your business analytics. And the most important part of this ERP will be the notification system that we have arrived. So we have been working on something called shelf life factor, which is amount of time for which you can keep stocks in the inventory to the amount of time it actually has to go to the retailer. So whenever the ERP system and our model detects that there is a delay in the dispatch, it will send a notification to the concerned unit. So this will help in optimizing and maintaining faster delivery. Next, please. Perfect. Now, as we have implemented this, we have improved efficiency. We can definitely now track carbon footprint automatically. We have optimized the chain model. We now also have servers which have a solid network. And other than that, it also gives a faster ROI, because now RFIDs are going to be able to scan a lot of codes in a very, very small amount of time. So this is overall optimize the system. Next, please. So how are we going to implement this? We are going to implement this in 3 steps: software setup, hardware setup, and operation setup. In software setup, a server and software will be provided by Blue Yonder to all these units. And in hardware, we will be replacing the barcodes that already exist with RFID scans. And wherever RFID scanners are not available, we'll be providing it to them. In operations, we'll be assisting all these centers for the smooth functioning. Next, please. Yes.
Okay, thank you, Shruti. So now let's move on to how we will start our implementation of our solution. Initially, we will first do a pilot run on 1 or 2 companies, where we'll be setting up the basic hardware required, like RFID scanners at the arrival and dispatch sections, and RFID guns with the delivery man of the distribution centers. So there is no change in any retailer level, but the distribution person's delivery man, when delivers to the retailer, has to scan the boxes and then leave the boxes at the retailer. So initially on the to implement the pilot run, we will use AWS services to keep it cost effective, and based on the success story of this pilot run, we will actually implement our plan. Next. Now, how the 5-year roadmap would look like. In the first year, once we have pilot run our solution on 4 to 5 companies, and once we start getting result based on those success stories, we will start marketing our solution. By next year, we will get more and more companies on board and start getting product specific CO2 values, average CO2 value of any product on pan India basis. And using that value, we'll get the CO2 versus sales graph, which would help companies actually identify where the actual CO2 emission is happening. And this would help the companies to optimize their both the manufacturing process as well. By 2025 or 2026, we plan to set up hardware at pan India level, that is to set up RFID scanners at all the CNFs, RFID guns with all the delivery persons. And best part is that the investment value for such system is very low. For the next 2 years, I would like to explain it on the vision part of our solution, which would be related to the packaging solution. Next.
Okay, so now when we have talked about what's our solution and how we are going to implement it, we would now like to discuss the impact that we are creating and the impact that we have projected once the roadmap is implemented gradually. So we have left the first quarter for setting up the hardware infrastructure across the supply chain during the for some part of companies, and then we will be gradually moving to different companies, and then we can see a significant reduction in amount of CO2 produced. Since we were not able to quantify CO2 exactly, so we tried to relate the reduction in CO2 to the reduction in the mismanagement of the supply chain that we are trying to achieve using this traceability solution. So by the end of the year, we are projecting to go apply our solution for at least 8 pan India companies, and having a significant reduction in CO2 by almost 1.5%. Next. Over the year 2 and year 3, since we have now validated our model, we'll now be moving on to large pan India companies, which will again have a significant reduction in CO2 by removing the mismanagement in the supply chain and by removing the counterfeit goods that are currently circulating in the supply chain. And with the success of the traceability solution, we will now introduce reverse logistics to boost packaging material retrieval from the retailers back to the industry, and thus promoting uh, less recycling of these packaging material, which will again have a significant boost since the traceability has already been achieved across all the steps of the supply chain. By the end of the year 5, we would like we would we are projecting to have a reduction by almost 16% of CO2 footprint currently. Now, when we have talked about the impact that we are creating, we would now like to actually talk about the business things. We have created a financial model using a bottom-up approach to find the financial health of our business model. We have taken into assumption multiple basic things, including developer costs, setting up of hardware infrastructure, setting up of uh, uh, RFID scanners across all the supply chain things, and then we have come up with we have come up with all the costs which are into investment, and also we have evaluated how much cost reduction this will provide to the
Last 30 seconds.
in terms of reduce some mismanagement in supply chain and removal of counterfeit goods.
Nile, please move on to the vision. Now I would like to tell the vision of our solution, that is to optimize the current supply chain through introducing foldable and a sustainable packaging solution. Right now, what
Oh,
happens is cartons are regularly discarded after the
Vasu, I request you to wrap up the presentation next 10 seconds.
Uh,
You are already over the
sure,
time.
sure. So what we would like to introduce is to get a sustainable and foldable carton box packaging solution which could go through the reverse logistics from retailer back to the manufacturing unit. This would help us in bringing standardization and regularization in the industry. Other than this, we would also like to put traceability right from the raw material production to the end consumer, and this would be a environment friendly product which would also increase brand identity, and we would like to revolutionize the packaging industry. Thank you, judges. With this, I would like to close our presentation. Thank you, jury.
Okay. Thank you, Team 17. So, just we are open to the Q&A round if you have any questions.
Sure.
Please ask.
So, team, I think very well presented and good content, lot of analysis I can see from the data points. We will go into the question, but just a general food for thought, right? Uh, Now, the topic we are talking about is sustainable supply chain, right? What it means is that first of all, the foundation of that is a supply chain system that should be there, right? Because um having a supply chain itself is going to solve most of the problems that you have articulated, right? Visibility, tracking, getting the right product at the right place through the most optimized manner, all those things, right? And that itself is going to significantly reduce your wastage and things like that. On
Yes,
top
sir.
of that, right, what are
Yeah.
the sustainable challenges we have, right? I'll just give an example. You order a product through Amazon, you get it, right? And it would have reached you using the most optimum route, right?
Yes, sir.
Somebody would have picked up from the nearest place and delivered to you, but the packaging was bad, right? So you got a small product, but it was delivered in a big cotton box, right? So that is the sustainable problem that we have today, right? So I think beyond this presentation, if you can also look at it into two aspects. One is segments where supply chain is not optimized. How would you apply that, and how would you reduce the carbon footprint and other things? And even areas where supply chain is well established with the boom in e-commerce, what are the sustainability related opportunities that are exist, right? I think if you guys
Yes,
can
sir.
look into it in these two areas, I think the solution will can be much more powerful.
So we
Rajiv?
also, I would like to mention that we also worked on adding this to our vision that that the right now the as we know that the packaging industry is facing a lot of
I think we
Hello.
lost Vasu.
Okay, I thought
Okay.
it was issue on my end, but yeah,
Yeah.
this.
So while we wait for Vasu to join, so there was an interesting statement made about 10% of the companies are tracking the carbon footprint. Um, and as I was telling the team before, you guys have been actually teaching us as well. So for me, that itself is a surprisingly high number. In India,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
sounds unbelievable. Maybe it's more that they're bothered and they're trying to do something about it. I don't know whether they have really reached a point where they can say they are tracking, right? But it'll be interesting to know more about that. So thanks for that. And I like that you actually have been talking to multiple people. Um, so there are a couple of questions I'll put out there, and then maybe you guys can think about
Sir,
it.
just a second. Like, I think the whole team has some connection issue.
Okay.
So only
So
Srushti from their side is currently connected, and
yeah, we'll just give them a minute. Hopefully, they can
yeah,
join back.
Srushti. Sorry, it's Shruti. Can you hear us, Shruti? Just a second, sir. I'll just confirm over there.
I guess even Shruti dropped.
Hello. Yeah. Judges Vasu and Gaurav from the
Yes, sir.
team are here. Yeah.
Okay,
Sorry, sir. There was disconnection.
no
So
issues.
uh, as we were talking about packaging for as a part of our vision, right now, as we have mentioned that the industry, because all the cartons that are used in packaging are every time recycled. Every time there is a new kind of packaging that is manufactured, which itself is a very big producer of CO2 emissions. So we would like to cut that down and bring it to a very small level. uh, i'll just I'll just present our reverse logistics.
Vasu, I think we got that in the vision, but and I
Okay, sir.
appreciate that you guys are thinking about that as well, right? And
Thank you, sir.
the only thing I will say is probably you could have focused a little bit more on that as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so I'll kind of put a couple of questions out there, right? What
Okay,
is
sir.
the issues with barcodes which RFID is solving?
So basically, the benefit of RFID over barcode is that RFID could scan thousands of tags at the same time. And since we are aware that the number of cartons in this industry is huge, so we barcode would not be able to sustain. It's not possible for a person to scan each and every barcode individually to
Got
every
it. So
carton.
now the other question I asked, because I think you were looking at using RFID at the item level itself that is being sold, not at the not only at the carton level, because when you're going from the retailer to the consumer, at that time as well, you were talking of RFID.
No, sir. We will be implementing at the carton level initially, and the when the delivery man of the distribution center leaves the boxes at the retailer level, at
Mm.
their unit it would be scanned. After this, there is no scanning as of now on product level. But in the vision of the solution, we would like to include that as well, because this is happening in some countries like UK and US already, where people could scan the barcode on the product.
Yeah, that's scanning the barcode or effectively a generic ID, not really a specific ID in any way, right? So the other
Exactly.
thing I'll also say, one thing I will say is the traceability piece, especially in manufacturing and reverse logistics, actually has a significant potential to save from a manufacturing standpoint.
Yes, sir.
Um, okay, so I know you guys touched upon it, but I think you probably need to look at that a lot more, because the savings there are more significant than anything else, right? The rest of
Hmm.
the supply chain piece, uh, it will help whenever there is a situation like the Suez Canal, but in a normal scenario, the impact may not be as much. Okay, uh, so again, regarding an ML aspect, I don't know whether we need ML really for this. Maybe we do, but the output that you're looking at, and how does that actually translate, it probably will need to be thought through a lot more, because if there are products out there which, even if low volume doesn't necessarily mean low margin, and low margin would anyway be eliminated whether it is high CO2 or low CO2. So the CO2 thing impacting the decision, how does that really work? I think maybe a question for me. Okay.
One last comment from my end is, I think
Yes, sir.
you have spent a lot of time in uh, kind of connecting the through the RFID as a means to measure CO2, right? Because you said that, I think not more than 10% probably in India has even have some
Yes,
visibility
sir.
and certain goals around
Hmm.
this aspect, right?
Yes, sir.
So maybe little bit more thought in terms of solutioning on with getting the data. How would you influence, right? What type of decisions that as enterprise companies can take uh, um, in doing certain things about it, right? Because I think, at least I know it was very briefly, someone mentioned about server and connecting and stuff like that. But beyond that, once you have the data, what would you do with that, right? A little bit more thoughts
So,
into that will,
uh,
I think, will take it to the next level.
And the other thing I'll add on a lot of these traceability solutions, the human factor actually is the biggest factor. You may think the human will do what is recommended, but the human will actually do what is easiest, which may not align with whatever guidance you have with the traceability. So while you may say that I want to use the oldest product first so that I can get it out and it's not going to go waste, the human might actually just pick the nearest one and say, I'm not really looking at what is the oldest one, right? Uh, I know because I've worked on traceability areas before where this human factor actually becomes a lot more important than any tracking you have of at the lowest level of what is where. So some thought on that. Uh, but I will say that the amount of thought you put it from an end-to-end standpoint in terms of measuring it and actually giving the information to take decisions, it's an extremely important factor. And real data, valid data is what's going to drive decisions. So to that effect, I think you'll probably be the idea has a lot of merit to it.
Definitely, sir. Like as Venkatesh sir, you said, like what the company will actually be doing post they have the data. Then there are multiple things that a company can do if they have a clear visibility of the supply chain. They can it can help companies to find out the best warehouses where the product should be going. They can it can help distribution centers as well. Uh, it can help distribution centers as well to let the products to as sir you are saying ki, like people will be finding out the easiest way to pick up the product. That's what we are automating. We are helping out to automatically tell them like these are the products which are old, so you can get rid of them easily.
Yep.
uh,
Yeah.
Earlier they used to have like records in pen paper, like when the product arrive. They didn't have much idea about when the product is going to be expired. With this uh, traceability and the the automation that we are doing it in the ERP system now, all the things will be centralized on a single server. Uh, People will have more
Excuse
visibility over
me.
it.
Excuse me. Sorry.
And let me explain you like how the things will work. Like after setting up the setup, like the person at the distribution channel will be able to place the order directly from that server, and through the RFID scans the data will be collected and registered along with the timestamp. And what does that timestamp help us? Like we'll get to know like which product will be like is first manufactured, so it will it will dispatch first. So along with that we will also introduce the smart inventory system and warehouse system, where like along with the data that we'll have a proper map of the warehouse, and like along with the data registered, the where that particular software uh, will provide you like where the this product should be kept. Like it would be a heat map kind of stuff. And along with and so that the human thing not will not be there in much, like the human issue that ये पहले आया तो ये पहले चला जाना चाहिए, तो कोई भी वो ऊपर का पहला नहीं देगा. तो like ये थोड़ा सिस्टमाइज हो जाएगा. And along with that the company can able to track at currently like company is not able to actually track that where the actual carbon footprint is. Like throughout the journey of the product company को पता नहीं कि like इस stage to इस stage कि कितना carbon footprint हो रहा है. So through our solution of traceability that the company will be able to know and can take certain actions. And through the data what we are going to do is like we will as mentioned in our slide, like we will have a graph of 2 by 2, like a table of 2 by 2, in which like uh, the we'll have a graph of sales versus CO2 emissions. So through our solution, we'll able to track the CO2 emissions. So we'll be have a table in which the ideal product will be of high sales and low CO2 emissions, and the products will having low sales and high CO2 emission. Then we will optimize it. Like since the problem statement was constrained to the domain of warehousing, logistics, and uh, packaging stuff, since for that products, if we are not able to optimize in that domain, we'll optimize into the sources domain, that where the source of the ingredients are, sources of the ingredients of that product.
Okay.
So not only, so not
Okay.
only
Yeah.
for this, it is for the upcoming vision also, like for the upcoming years, how we gonna optimize this.
Okay. Judges and the team, like we have to wrap up this session.
Yeah, sure, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, guys. I think this was, as I said, and we are learning from you as well. So thanks for sharing all this information and your ideas. There's a lot of merit to it and a lot of potential. Keep working on it. Actually, I would ask you to do that.
And
Sure,
I'll
sir.
just say,
Sure.
and I'll just add a lot of passion, right? You guys are really trying to justify and provide more and more information when we ask questions. So yeah, that's good.
Okay.
Uh,
So team, I'll be
oh,
revoking
mm,
your access now, and
okay.
I'll be letting team 19 in.
Thank you, jury. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Also, so like we have like kind of 10 minutes after the presentation, so it consists of like 5 minute buffer, and it happens that it's getting overshoot for the both of the presentation. So it's like kind of a request that can we keep the questions limited to like clarifying doubts or like something conceptual that the team has been presenting.
Yeah, Azad, you can moderate. Don't hesitate, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yep.
because like in favor of time, like we have to kind of restrict like these kind of things.
No problem, Azad. I mean, it's just that we enjoy the
Yeah, yeah,
discussion a
you
lot.
sure, sir. Like I too enjoyed the both the presentations, but yeah, like other teams like had to be delayed due to that.
Yeah,
So
no problem. No problem. Carry on.
okay. So team 19, can every one of them raise hands? The presenters. Yeah, I say Hardik, Hardik, Karthik. Uh, will there anyone else joining? Okay, Ankita. So I'm admitting all of them. Uh, Team 19, is there anyone else joining the presentation from your side, or is like you three only going to present?
Yes, no, there are two more people actually. Just we just have a internet issue at our hostel, so yeah, two more people are joining.
Okay, okay. Hardik, can you confirm how much time will the team require?
Yeah, I just got a message like he's trying to connect. He'll take 2 more minutes in that. Like I'm extremely sorry for this inconvenience, but like this hostel Wi-Fi it got shut down immediately.
Can three of you start the presentation if that's okay? Like we are already back on time.
Olivia, just let me check them once. Like I'm calling them if they are joining. Otherwise, like I'll start.
Okay. Judges, like till the team joins, I'll just want to reiterate the scoring. Like the team has shared the scoring sheet with you, right? Venkata sir, Rajiv sir.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, cool. So like there are 300 points, and in like for 5 parameters, so like we have to kind of evaluate on those basis, particularly that have been suggested earlier.
So Azad, we are how many sessions are we done with here?
Sir, two teams have been presented.
Two are
The
done.
next, yeah, two are done. Like the next one has some issue or like an internet issue at the campus, so they are unable to join. So like Karthik, if the team can't join, then we can move on to the next team and we can allot you the next later slot. That's fine. Team 19, can you please confirm?
Yeah, that would be fine if we can join in the next slot. We'll be present in the meeting.
Okay, okay. So next team, team 21, are you present here? Yeah, please raise hand, team 21. I see only Mayan from team 21. Okay, you are going to present alone. Cool. Okay, just that we have team 21. Mayan will be presenting alone. So Mayan, you can share your screen. Okay, Mayan, are you ready? Uh,
Is my screen visible?
Yeah, it's visible. It's visible. Is Janmit from your team, man? He just
Uh,
raised his hand.
what? Can you repeat?
Is Janmit Singh Makkar from your team?
No, no, no.
He doesn't have a profile, so I can't. Okay, cool.
Okay,
Then you can start in. You can present the screen,
okay,
uh, and you can start the present. Okay, one,
okay.
two, three, start.
Okay, is it visible? Okay.
Yeah.
Uh, Good morning to all. I belong to Team 21 and I'm going to give my proposal for sustainable supply chain through this presentation. So, first of all, the question arises, what is sustainable supply chain? Supply chain sustainability refers to companies' efforts to consider the environmental and human impact of their product's journey through the supply chain, from raw material sourcing to production, storage, delivery, and every transportation link in between. The goal is to minimize environmental harm from factors like energy usage, water consumption, and waste production. NAWCI's members supply chain network scope consists of warehousing, transportation, and packaging. Now, one by one, let's ponder upon these areas. Potential of local fulfillment. The acceleration of local or market based fulfillment is one standout point impact of the pandemic, and Amazon is a pioneer here. In March 2020, the e commerce giant doubled down on its local delivery strategy by investing in a network of new micro fulfillment centers located even closer to its customers. To respond to Amazon's delivery speed and cost, brick and mortar retailers develop capabilities by using their stores or other local inventory options. The last mile supply chain through this method could lower emissions between 17 to 26% by 2025. And according to Accenture based model of London, this will decrease delivery traffic by 13% and save about 144,000 tons of carbon emissions. Now, we can also incentivize greener choices. Making purchases online can be as easy as clicking a button and finding the package at your front door an hour later. It's so easy that people don't think about how the shipping option they select and the size of their basket impacts the environment. The root issue here is lack of buyer awareness. It's why the last mile ecosystem must make consumers more aware of the environmental impact of delivery options and be more transparent by offering green delivery choices at checkout. These choice architectures can have the gamut from green shipping buttons to GHG calculators to consolidating multiple individual deliveries into one. There are also options to incentivize consumers to pick up parcels at local fulfillment centers by offering value add experiences or discounts. Then we can also uh, rethink the about repurposing asset use. Pandemic lockdowns kept shoppers at home and created new challenges, such as closing stores. But retailers have and continue to repurpose stores into local fulfillment centers. As already discussed, these are hybrid spaces for shopping, collecting, and returning deliveries. In a shared use model, dying shopping malls and other unused or underused urban spaces can become multi tenant fulfillment hubs. Bringing new life to such spaces can generate income for towns, cities, and local authorities while enabling the sustainable last mile. We can also take a lesson from United States Postal Service's Parcel Select service, in which delivery companies cooperate and get sorted packages to their final stop at least cost. Then, coming to the warehousing sustainability, so its basic elements are energy efficient lighting, doors with sensors which automatically close, wind turbines and solar energy, sensors for lighting in key areas of your warehouse to trigger lights only when needed, returnable recyclable containers and packaging materials, forklift fleet improvements like propane forklifts and AC powered electric lift trucks, and using shared warehouses. So there is a need for efficient order picking process. Basically, order picking process is defined as the process of retrieving items from storage locations in response to a specific customer request, and it is the most laborious and the most costly activity in a typical warehouse. Thus, there is a need to improve order picking efficiency by reducing traveling distance. So the first method is the routing method. The first one here is the S shape policy, then the S written policy, then the largest gap. Then the two relatively new policies developed are composite policy and combined policy. And then this final one is the uh, output of an optimal algorithm combining a graph theory and a dynamic programming, which results in a shortest possible optimal route. According to one case study, order pickers, by efficiently using routing methods, can possibly reduce traveling distance by 17 to 34%. Now, coming to the storage method, there are several different types of patterns of storage used in practice. Most relevant for order picking is shown in this figure. They are all proven in reducing the total travel distances in order picking compared to random storage. Items with higher order volume or smaller cube per order index are stored in darker locations, whereas cube per order index is ratio of the items required storage space to the item's order frequency. So the items with the lowest cube per order index are stored in the locations nearest to the depot. Now coming to the batching methods, usually pickers pick one customer order at a time in one route. This method can work well in operations with a small total number of orders and a high number of picks per order. Operations with low picks per order will find the travel time excessive. In batch picking, multiple customer orders are grouped into batches. Therefore, the items from several customer orders are picked in one route, which generally reduces the travel distances per order. And coming to the warehouse layouts, traditional warehouse layouts are layouts we could find today in the majority of the warehouses. The basic form is with parallel aisles that you can observe in the left figure. It has been found out that warehouses with which allows the cross easel to take different shape, the expected distance to retrieve a pallet is 8 to 12% less than in an equivalent traditional design. Now coming to the distribution and related transportation. As per World Economic Forum, logistics accounts for around 5.5% of greenhouse gas emissions. So, sustainable transformation can be adopted like drones, electric and hybrid vehicles for home deliveries. Now, we can also deploy low carbon technologies in trucks like sharing, like turbocharging of engines, low rolling resistance tires, as done by FedEx, and improve aerodynamic profiling, hybridization, and anti-idling devices. And Johnson and Johnson and Walmart report using wider tires on their trucks, which has given a very well result in improving the fuel efficiency. We can also share vehicles capacity. The driving training can also be done, which is done by the dealership ban improve their fuel efficiency. Then fixing typical defects like poor combustion and axle mismanagement, then shifting portions of road transport to rail, then scheduling preferred delivery time as done by the Dell by doing 80% of the first time deliveries. Then coming to the distribution operations with regard to returns management shall be outsourced to local service providers. Local service provider is able to reduce the carbon footprint by the adoption of a full truckload and by consolidating the shipments. According to Hone research, in such cases, the carbon footprint is reduced as there will be fewer trips. Now, harnessing data and analytics. Carbon is a new currency, and business leaders will require much more accurate, granular, and timely emission transparency to run the business in the future. Cloud-based platform for footprint assessment can be adopted, like hybrid cloud collaboration platform, which represents a mix of public, private, and community clouds to swap processing and spread applications across those boundaries. Blockchain can also be adopted, which is a decentralized ledger that maintains digital records of a transaction simultaneously on multiple computers. Its deployment cost is low and gets easily diffuses with Internet of Things devices. And during 2005 to 2015 period, the costs of sensors has also decreased by a factor of 100. And an encouraging aspect is that most blockchain transactions are relatively inexpensive once other enabling systems have been established. For instance, BankU uses Ethereum. In 2018, the average cost of transaction in Ethereum network was just US dollars 0.03. Now coming to the green consumerism, future vision of concept stores where customers are intended to go and experience the products instead of picking them off shelves. This thought can be elaborated into e-commerce perspectives as well by adding photos, videos, or detailed descriptions to the sustainable products, how they contribute positively to the sustainability dimensions. Companies can create emotional attachment with the customers. Since since reusing order packages are not as costly for companies as ordering new ones, one alternative for customers is to have an old package with zero cost, and the other alternative is to pay extra for a new package. This is similar to the idea of one bag habit initiative. The other interesting finding is that customers do not recognize the environmental impacts of fast delivery options like 2-hour deliveries. So customers can be educated about it. In this way, customers would volunteer to choose a green delivery methods themselves. For example, if the ordered product is not urgent, then some customers may be happy to wait longer for it to be delivered if it is better for the environment. Now coming to the levels of visibility, transport managers have little knowledge about the state of the transportation system, which results in discrepancies of planned and actual shipment flows and thus leads to unnecessary cost and unsatisfied customer demand. The figure shows the figure given shows as the level of visibility increases from 0 to 3, the on-time delivery performance also increases. Let's see it holistically in the next slide. Figure illustrates the model split of all items sent. In level 0, the transport manager does not receive any information about delays. Therefore, no emergency orders can be placed in order to prevent stockouts. This, of course, results in low on-time delivery performance. On-time delivery performance is significantly improved when moving to level 1. In level 1, stockouts are primarily prevented uh, by using light trucks and air freight. That is to say, the fastest and the most costly modes of production must be used as information is updated only on a daily basis. In level 2, information about delays is known earlier. This further improves on-time delivery performance because information is available earlier. Cost-effective heavy trucks may be used for emergency orders, and less light trucks and air freight are required to provide the higher service level. And level 3 further increases the service level because the additional time between observation of a delay and demand of the customer allows for using light trucks to transport. So it can be seen that an increase in the level of visibility gives the opportunity to reduce transportation costs using slower and less costly modes of production. Now coming to the packaging. According to the EPA report, packaging contributes to an astonishing 77.9 tons of municipal solid waste per year. Packaging weighs 347 grams per box. Replacing the fluting and insider liner with lighter and stronger billet corners materials reduce the weight of each shipping by 62 grams. This prevented 5,000 metric tons of carbon dioxide from being emitted. And HP Hewlett Packard is the great example. For this instance, when shipping your product from manufacturing centers to distribution centers, you should consider two factors: how much excess space is in your packaging and the cube utilization. By this, Microsoft increased the overall product to package ratio by 7%.
Last 30 seconds remaining.
Companies can make REPA agreement with packaging company that they sell their old packages to and later buy it back, thus using recycled material for their packages. Organic fabrics such as hemp, flax, recycled cotton, and even palm, banana, and pineapple leaves can replace plastic bags and containers. These materials biodegrade in 100 days. Then further, the bioplastic is produced using plant or other biological material as compared to traditional plastics that are produced using petroleum. So bio-based and biodegradable plastic options, including
Man, please wrap up in next 10 seconds.
polyelastic acid like polyhydroxyclonates and starch blend can be used. Like Coca-Cola plant bottle is a great example for it. Thank you.
Okay, now we can move on to the Q&A session, Q&A part for the team. Just if you have any doubts, you can ask. Hello, Rajesh sir, Vinod sir, Venkata sir. Am I audible?
Yes, yes, yes. So, Mayan, in terms of
Yes, sir.
the breadth of coverage of various opportunities that we have from a sustainability standpoint, I think you've done an amazing job. You've actually touched upon a lot of things.
Yes, sir.
Um, so, I think the amount of research you've obviously done on this has been
Yes, sir.
great. Okay, so the there's one general comment, question first, actually, in terms of that warehousing focus that you had around picking strategies, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. In the warehouses,
Um,
sir.
yeah, what is the carbon impact for percentage impact across the entire supply chain that you can expect by doing those improvements?
Uh, so sir, we use forklift in the warehouses and other technologies for transporting within the warehouses.
Yeah.
So we will use the same vehicles that we use. We will not replace that, but we can use a different strategy. So according to our data, uh, that the analysis, this is the order batching analysis,
Hmm.
which is which have sorry sir. So in order batching analysis, which was done, I read in the research paper. So without replacing the already existing vehicles and by following these methods
Hmm.
like S
Okay.
shape,
Yeah. Yeah.
like S shape return and midpoint largest and that composite and combined, then these showed much larger emissions compared to the coded or you can say software manipulated design, which is the optimum one, which is shown in the last figure.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Venkat, any?
Yeah, I think I just echo what Rajiv said, right? I think the breadth and depth of the opportunities, it's great. I mean, in fact, I would say this is probably a great white paper material in that sense. Um,
Yes, sir. Yes.
do you have? I didn't see to implement all these things, right? What's going to be the cost and know the how much would it take to gain the benefits? Some sort of a cost period analysis and roadmap. Uh,
So like for warehousing sustainability, this is the just planning. I think for this, not any extra cost is required. And for the potential of for bearing the fruits of the local fulfillment centers, like Amazon has did, and it has been also been done in the London, uh, uh, through the essential based model. So we have to directly contact the retailers, and because of the closure during the COVID-19, we can easily convince those retailers, and and it uh, and it does not require much efforts to be implemented by
Okay.
contact.
Okay. So the one just a comment, right? I'm not really expecting an answer or explanation from you, right? Is
Yeah.
on the blockchain thing that you, I think you mentioned. You mentioned about
Yes.
3 cents
Yes.
per
Yes. Yes. Sir.
transaction cost, right?
Yes. Sir.
Uh, you need to understand 3 cents per transaction
Yes. Sir. Yes.
is
Sir.
relative to what, right? Relative to what is the current cost of the transaction, uh, because blockchain
Yes. Sir.
um, is very computationally intensive,
Yes. Yes. Sir.
and over time that 3 cents will add up because the number of transactions
No,
involved can be
sir.
pretty significant. So
Sir.
again, as I
Basically.
said, just hold on, just hold on, right?
Yes. Sir.
Because of interest of time, I'm kind of saying it's a comment. Just think about it. I don't know the details either. You might
Yes.
be
Sir.
right, but I would like you to be sure that you've looked at that from what is
Yes.
the
Sir.
alternative standpoint.
Yes, sir. So because paperwork is lots of paperwork is there, and lots of coordination it requires through communication, through maintaining Excel sheets, and lots of regulations are required for that. And by replacing that with the Ethereum network, and just by accessing through computers which are connected on the blockchain, the price has been found out, sir. Because the conventional techniques consumes lots of time, energy, and lots of resources.
Yeah, but I think you need to think of whether there are alternative, simpler solutions as compared to blockchain. Blockchain sounds great, may not be the best answer in all
Yes,
cases.
but Alibaba sir is using for transporting healthcare supply from the Australia's and New Zealand dairy products. Alibaba is doing. Then the Walmart is also tracing his food through uh, through this blockchain technology, and within 0.02 seconds, as per the report of Walmart, it uh, is able to identify. And in conventional
Okay.
methods, it takes about multiple days, around weeks, to identify the product and replace, which also increases the carbon footprint and is also not feasible. Uh,
It's
will in the
good.
future.
Sounds good. Sounds good, man. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Uh, it was great
Thank
hearing you,
yeah.
man. This was a lot
Thank
of
you, sir.
stuff covered by you.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes,
great work, man. Yeah, yeah.
thank you, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mayank. Thank you, Jagdish. So I'll just revoke the access, Mayank.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we'll move on to the next team, team 18. So team 18, can you raise your hands, please? Yeah, I see two people. How many from team 18 will be joining as presenters? Okay. So I'm admitting both of you. Okay. Like who will be presenting the screen?
I'll present, sir. I'm audible?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So you'll be having the access.
Sure, sir. Thank you.
Hey Siddharth, I'm also audible, right?
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, great.
Yeah. So can you see the screen? Yeah, I think you can see
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, Siddharth, I
It's
can.
visible.
Yeah, Akshat, you can
Okay,
start.
so judges, we can start, right? Judges?
Yes, please.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
You can start,
yeah,
team
okay.
18.
Hey everyone, this is Team 18, and here is our take on the case study. Apart from the social causes for which many companies have solutions in place, we could identify 5 primary areas to target carbon footprints. The number one being there is no standardized measurements for the carbon emissions, so we can reduce what we cannot measure, is what we feel. Transport vehicles are not being packed to their full capacity, and if we order from Amazon or Flipkart, even if they have the same warehouse, two different vehicles will come to deliver. In order to reduce damage during transportation, many unsustainable materials are being used in packaging. There is a lot of paperwork involved in the process. Printing and paper add to carbon footprint. And the fifth one is also the return processes. These double up the cost and emissions with no revenue generation. So, keeping the concerns in mind, we have devised a 5 year plan with the initial plan of action being those things that can be implemented at the minimal extra cost yet provide sustainable benefits. Moreover, the design is such that each task facilitates the future tasks. We are considering number one, certifications targeting from year one, paperless supply chains, packaging from second year, route optimization targeting from the third year, return process optimization, consolidated warehousing, and the last mile combined deliveries targeting from the fourth year. So, going forward with the first solution for the certifications, our first solution and a year one plan is to make certifications for the supply chain of the organizations. This has been done to motivate as well as have a healthy competition among the companies to become green organization and help in carbon footprint. So this is basically like a rating as we provide to the products. We also know how products are improved year on year to get more rating. Similarly, in order to achieve a good rating, companies will try to achieve more sustainable supply chain in the future.
Now, my second solution would be paperless invoicing. Simply put, paperwork is a very cumbersome process, especially when the time margins are slim and huge volumes of shipments are being handled. Apart from increased carbon footprint, they are labor intensive, have high chances of error, and are difficult to monitor. One obvious solution is to go paperless, and a few companies are slowly warming up to the idea of it too. Big FMCG companies are collecting orders from their suppliers and retailers digitally. Looking into the impact, we are trying to reduce the deforestation directly. Recycled paper being sustainable is a myth, and many in the industry already know it. Moreover, large amounts of invoices are being shredded on the same day of being generated. Going paperless is the true way to save these trees, not to mention the reduced printing costs. Also, using digital systems here will be the first step towards warehouse management services, which are known to make supply chain more efficient. Reducing paper will also give these warehouses more physical foot space in the warehouse. Now, when we receive a postal delivery, we are required to sign a sheet of paper. We all know that. That the bundle of A4 sheets that is what each agent uses on a daily basis, and this becomes a major issue when thousands of delivery agents use it all over India. But when we order something from Amazon or Flipkart, we don't have to sign anywhere. One photo is taken and we receive an SMS as a proof of delivery. There's no contact involved in this delivery or there's no paperwork involved. This no contact delivery is what we want FFCG companies to adopt too. One easy way to do it is via WhatsApp, or we can integrate this feature into their order placement app itself, or we can use third-party systems such as Superphone AI or Swipe to do this for us.
So the third solution, which is for packaging. Packaging has been an issue for the D2C brands for really long, and what we basically observe is an oversized box with a lot of fillers accompanied with a plastic covering which is non-reusable as they are stuck with glue. Here we have shown the 5 ways to measure the packaging method and its sustainability. Our solution is trying to target these 5 measuring criteria, which is the recycling of the material, production, use phase, raw material used, and the transportation optimization. Going on to the next slide, our first solution is box size rating. For this, what we are recommending is asking customers themselves if the packaging size was adequate or not, just like rating for the products. We feel this is really easy to implement, and large data will help us optimize the entire box sizing in a long term. This even provides customers the power to take part in the overall optimization of the supply chain. Going on to the next slide, Our next second solution is to optimize packaging in is using a reusable plastic covering. As of now, the plastic covering is of no use. They are not even used for domestic purposes. They are not even taken back by the brands like Amazon. There is no reverse supply chain designed for those. So hence, we have designed a new packaging plastic cover which can be used at the homes and also durable for reusability by Amazon facility. And yeah, thanks to the mechanical folks out there in our team. So this is our new design, which is made up of HDPE material, and the basic design consists of a seal at the top, which once detached cannot be stuck back again. So if anyone tries to check our product, we will get to know so that we can take care of the safety, and also the attached handles can be used in the domestic use. Which is made up of HDPE material, and the basic design. Oh, okay, yeah. Seal at the top, which once detached cannot be.
Okay, so now going ahead with AI in supply chain. Now, as mentioned previously, there are two major problems in the current logistics systems. Vehicles are driving empty, and nobody can find the most sustainable route that can accommodate return pickups and alternate delivery addresses. Which is why in our third year, we want to leverage the power of AI here. AI will help us in supply fulfillment, finding the delivery routes, and also vehicle maintenance, and also loading and packaging optimization. US Postal Services in USA already uses AI to account for alternate delivery addresses. So suppose if I am not present at my home, I can give them an address and same day it will be delivered to that address. Or it can also accommodate for return pickups, which are facilitated by data analysis. In terms of impact of a solution, through AI, we can reduce the greenhouse gas emissions by 5 to 10%, and out of which 13% is due to logistics. We can reduce the cost associated with it by 5%. We can increase brand awareness, which will appeal to 85% of customers, and also we can see a net increase in profits. In terms of feasibility and implementation, companies already want to implement AI in their supply chain. 4% of FMCG has already done it, 35% want to do it. E-commerce already has it, and the small e-commerce ones rely on third-party systems, while the bigger ones have their own agile systems. But why isn't everyone already doing it? This is because they're very expensive to implement, expensive to develop, and need dedicated employees. What can NAWCI do here? We can promote a third-party startup such as Stratex Bazaar, Locus, or Shipsy, which are homegrown in India, and these startups can assess the size of the company and give a curated project product to each one. One startup handling the data for multiple companies will also help improve the algorithm's accuracy.
Talking about the fifth solution for the consolidated warehousing, since NAWCI, which has all well-known companies agreeing on working together, as of now, the scenario is such that each company has separate warehouse or urban consolidated centers in various cities, and the products from each company reach there and goes out for delivery. There is no space optimization in those being followed, as companies do not end up using the entire space of this last mile warehouses, and thus have several delivery agents from different companies going to a single area with different vehicles which are not even filled. Going on to the next slide. But the consolidated warehousing makes it possible for the companies to have a single warehouse for their last mile delivery, which means the entire space is used, making it optimized, less electricity charge for the warehouses because less warehouses are used as because of the space optimization, less delivery agents required, less workers required at the warehouse. That means less trips for a particular area required, thus optimization of space both in the trucks and in the facilities, which will reduce the overall carbon emission to a great extent, both in terms of pollution through vehicles and save electricity in the warehouse. So the next slide depicts the benefits of the consolidated warehousing even over the non-consolidated, which is being done as of now. The consolidated warehousing reduces the carbon footprint, the shipping cost, helps in planning and organization as it's for all the companies at a same place, and makes the entire shipping very frequent. Through a report by the World Bank, combined warehouses can bring down the overall cost by 3% and the emissions by 2%.
Now, we have a separate section for just last mile deliveries. This is because they're very important and account for over 50% of cost associated in the supply chain. Now, the landscape of last mile deliveries is changing. Faster delivery is the new normal. E-commerce has a rapidly growing customer base. When I say faster delivery is the new normal, need for speed is the third factor contributing towards increase in overall demand for last mile deliveries. From Amazon's one-day delivery to Zepto's 10 minutes, faster delivery no, is more in demand. Same day and instant deliveries are growing with 36% and 17% respectively. And when e-commerce has a rapidly growing customer base, what I mean is that 2.1 billion people are expected to buy goods online, and this is growing at the rate of 20% every year. Now, as shown in the figure, delivery vehicles will increase by 36% and carbon emissions by 6 million tons by 2030 because of these two factors. Now, three fundamentals for last mile delivery ecosystem to create a more sustainable last mile are being discussed here. Our first one would be to incentivize greener choices. Second one would be to rethink the asset use, and third one to be harnessing data analytics and power of AI. Now, when I say incentivizing greener choices, the root issue here is the lack of buyer awareness. It is why last mile delivery ecosystem must take consumers more aware of the environmental impact of the delivery options they are choosing. E-commerce being a rapidly growing area, building greenhouse gas emission calculators at checkout to consolidate multiple deliveries into one is one area we can explore. There is also options to incentivize customers to pick up parcels at local fulfillment centers by offering value-added experience or discounts. So suppose next day I'm going to Big Bazaar to do my daily shopping. I can also pick up my Amazon delivery there and also get a discount for that. According to a report by Accenture, if customers in a 1 kilometer radius of a fulfillment center were to collect their deliveries on foot, 14% of London's deliveries would have a 0% emission in the last mile. Here are some examples of incentives like Shopify's Green Carbon Checkout app that gives the carbon footprint of customers' purchase. Now, when we say rethinking asset use, we have already discussed this when we talked about consolidated warehousing or combining last mile deliveries. This is just because suppose we have multiple warehouses scattered all across the country and we have multiple delivery agents, we can ask them to go to one warehouse and combine all the deliveries and deliver it to one place instead of having multiple delivery agents deliver my order from the same warehouse. And harnessing data analytics is already discussed, and the same data analytics can be used for return process optimization also. Now, driving the sustainable last mile. Real change towards more sustainable last mile takes coordination from and collaboration from across the ecosystem. Here, retailers can entice their customers to choose in-store fulfillment. Delivery companies can put data at the heart of operations and prioritize new greener practices. Governments can align sustainability and can align sustainable last mile strategy with economic and stimulus and jobs. Customers can choose greenest delivery option whenever possible. Now, companies and cities have explored many solutions which generally fall into six broad categories. These categories are vehicle change, secure delivery, customer movement, consolidation, last leg, and change in delivery environment, thereby encompassing the whole last mile delivery funnel. The figure contains an overview of 24 prioritized last mile interventions. As you can see in the figure, the light blue colored dots show those things that can be put into action in the next 3 years. The half light blue, half dark blue are those things that can be put into action in the next 1 to 3 years, and the dark blue dots are the ones which are in use already today. Apart from these, there are many potential interventions that are being explored to reduce the impact. Now, when we were making our 5 year plan, this is what we followed into. We followed the World Economic Forum's report to see what kind of incentives need what kind of time and what kind of incentives are people open to. Now we see that here using EV can reduce CO2 emissions by 60% and delivery costs by 2%. Hence, we want to, in long term, switch towards alternative vehicles, which I think every company is already doing. And also we can see that using nighttime delivery here can reduce CO2 emissions by 4% and delivery costs by over 28%. With this, we are done with our 5 solutions, and we have also told you about many other solutions which people are exploring, especially in the last mile leg. Now, we are open to all your questions.
Thank you, Team 18. Just we are open to the question answer round.
Say, Rajiv here. So, uh, from a feedback standpoint, first of all, I liked how you guys have organized your focus areas and the clarity of your understanding of how much you have done and what more is possible and out there, right? That was pretty good. Second thing is, you've focused a little bit on the fundamentals when you talk about paperless, when you yeah, talked about the whole certification aspect. Uh, a lot of the certification aspect, especially, is something that if it starts becoming important for the consumer, it'll actually becoming important for the companies as well. So
Yes.
doing that right, and thinking about that, I think is great. Uh, I do believe there's already some things out there. We need to see how you know those things can be expanded and kind of worked on. So great stuff there. Uh, I do have some questions on the packaging side of things
Sure,
first,
sir.
and the consolidated warehousing side of things, right? On the packaging side, I'll combine the questions and then maybe you can answer, and then maybe Venkat might have some questions as well. Um, the concern I have with the rating model is that 90% of the people don't bother with rating. They don't have the time for it. They actually just take a decision next time I'm going to buy this or not and move on. I know I do that. I don't go into every site to give my feedback so that others can see it, right? Even from a rating standpoint, unless it's mandated that you cannot move on to the next thing or you cannot ignore this option, I'll kind of do that. And what is A grade for one person may be C grade for another person because they're looking for something different at times, or their standards are different for all that matter. So consumer rating has its limitations, and I am not totally convinced on that aspect of it, right? uh, there probably should be a better way to think about it. At least that's what I'm thinking. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that a little bit, not too detailed, right? Just
Sure,
something to
sir.
think about.
Sure, sir.
And on the consolidated warehousing piece, um, it's the same thing. It's already kind of out there. What's the differentiation of your idea here? That's I wanted to understand. Or is it just about taking that idea a lot more forward and getting implemented a lot broadly? Is that what your recommendation is?
Sure, sir. We'll get on to both the points. Siddharth, can you go on to the next slide, please? Thank you. So basically, sir, for the box size rating, what we feel is, let us say, let's talk about me. When I get few packages, like once I got a package of a pen drive, which was in a really big box, and there were a lot of fillers out there inside it, which was not required. And there are several other customers out there who are concerned about this. When there are millions of orders being placed on a platform like Amazon each day, we feel even if it's a 1% recommendation, it's 100,000 recommendations. Even if 1% is concerned about this packaging material, 100,000 reviews we can get for a particular packaging. And if we sum it up to a month or a 2 month data for each product which we people buy, there will be ample data to decide if the facility is doing the right job of selling, of putting in the product in the right box or not. Because as of now, Amazon has entire database of which product will require which kind of sizes. They have 38 major size of box size which they have designed as of now. But there is always a glitch. There's always going to be some problem in this data because there's no review of this data. And that is what we are trying to put in. We are trying to put in a review system which can tell Amazon, okay, this is the optimized box size which you have chosen, but people don't feel this is the optimized size. This size is pretty large than what the product is. So if people put in their recommendations in this place, then that becomes an important that becomes an important solution. So that is one help which are providing to the Amazon entire database to analyze if the box size is correct or not. This is our take on the
Okay.
box size. Yeah.
Okay.
And talking about the consolidated, Siddharth, do you want to add something?
Yeah, I just wanted to add this thing that Amazon already has its own, rating system. So the AI tells which box to be used for which product, and human diligence is not being considered there. And we just want to improve that algorithm because right now it is not that good. And that algorithm can be improved via guided feedbacks, where once we, like, suppose I buy and I get an SMS that I have collected the order, that SMS can itself be a link towards a 5-star rating, and that will be your guided feedback.
Correct. And talking about the consolidated warehousing, which you asked, Siddharth, can you go on to the consolidated warehousing? Um, Thank you very much. Next slide, please. So basically, in the consolidated warehousing, as of now, what the scenario was that Amazon, Flipkart, any other D2C brand or retail brand are not ready to work with us, which is in the real life. But because of this NAWCI which is being created, all these companies have come together. That means that even if, let us say, in my locality there are 10 people who are ordering a product from Amazon, and same product is being ordered on Flipkart by 10 other people, there will be different delivery vehicles coming for each of those 10 products to be delivered. But now, because of the same warehousing, same vehicle being used, all the 20 products will be on the similar same warehouse, which means the space will be optimized, because only one warehouse will be used rather than two or three for the different companies. Secondly, when a vehicle comes from those warehouses for the final delivery to the houses, these can be delivered in one vehicle only rather than two, which is like a direct impact on the carbon footprint. And that is what we wanted to target basically. Because of NAWCI, this is possible, which is not being uh, reality as of now. So that is why we put this part into this entire solution.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I have only one question. I think Raju touched upon the key aspects. If you can go to the 5-year slide, right, where you said the first year you will do certifications. Yeah. So in this, do you have a view of, if let's say, since we took Amazon as reference multiple times, if I were Amazon and if I were to go through this chart, what would be the improvement to the carbon emissions in year one, year two, as we progressively implement different solutions?
Okay,
So
sir.
yeah,
Okay, Siddharth, you can
I'll
take
take
it.
up this question. You can add
Sure,
to.
sure.
So one thing is that customers, these days are inclined towards sustainable choices. That is where certifications come into play. So when we buy refrigerators, we get those 5-star ratings depending on their electricity usage. Similarly, we can have 5-star rating for sustainability basis, and data tells us that 85% of people, look into these kind of ratings, look into sustainability as a rating before choosing product. So like sir had mentioned previously, if customers get warmed up to this idea, companies will be bound to do this. So one thing what they're doing with certifications is that they are reaching out to a bigger target audience, plus in doing so they're reducing their carbon footprints. Similarly, paperless supply chain in Amazon is already there. I can vouch for that. What they don't have right now is return process optimization and AI based route optimization, which will be beneficial if they implement,
Yeah, sorry.
especially in India.
Just sorry for interruption. Just my question is a little more than
Yeah.
the explanation itself, right?
Yes,
So
sir.
my
Let me
question
take it.
is,
Yeah.
yeah. So for example, do you have a view of in year one, if it's implemented, right? What would be the carbon emission improvement? Like say 2%, right? Year two, when you implement the next one, how is it? What is it that you would expect, right? That's what I'm asking.
Okay, so sir, frankly, we haven't calculated for each, because what steps which we have designed, let us say, starting from certification to paperless to packaging, each are very interconnected. So we don't have devised a particular supply, what do you say, carbon footprint or carbon emission which will come up. But if you see the options which we have done for the last 5 years, whatever we are, everything is interconnected, as in starting from AI, which is going to be helpful to optimize the return process. And this optimization will help in the consolidation of the warehouses too. As the products will come up because of the AI, it will tell you this product should going to this warehouses. So every step is very interconnected. And let us say consolidated warehouse will then help us in the last mile delivery. So there's no particular, you could say, emission which we have calculated, but the entire scenario will definitely put a ample amount of effect. We cannot tell you the number exactly, and that's maybe a drawback from our side. We would agree to that, but that's the entire take for us.
Yeah, no, I think beyond this presentation, right? I think since you have
Yeah,
done a lot of research and come up with, and I think this is a very good representation to say how progressively you can improve the sustainability aspects, and then also these are all building blocks, if you will, right? And as
exactly.
you as you implement each add-on solutions, your overall benefit is going to increase.
Yes.
But I think it will be good to just have that point of view. Again, I know that it's probably very difficult to calculate, but
Yeah.
I think it is always good to, because we are talking about sustainability.
Yes, sir.
We need to
So
have a representative point of view to say, if I do these three things, right, I can improve by 10%, right? I think that kind of a goal is very important.
yes, sir. That validation we won't be able to provide right now, but that is why we are putting our certification at the first place. So we have seen companies, who assess carbon footprint for other companies, and that is their business model. So if we have certifications, those companies can, later validate that, okay, because of this method, you have done this much of
Exactly.
impact
Yeah.
or this much of.
So we have
But yeah,
started with certifications only, so that at the end of the day, this entire scenario can be judged, or you can be the entire carbon footprint can be calculated through that certification process, which can be started at the start. So yeah,
but yeah,
and
we
if you
take your
talk
point
about,
that
yeah,
we have not done this.
yes, sir. But if you take our point, whatever we have calculated on each step, we feel maybe it will be around 12 to 13%, because there's steps which you have said 2% has been reduced, 6% has been reduced. And if we compound it with each and every step, it can be around 12 to 13%. We are not sure, it's an arbitrary number, sir, but according to what we feel. So, yeah.
Okay, yeah, thank you. But I just repeat what I said earlier. Very good preparation, and I think the level of details that you guys have gone into various aspects, not just one or two, is commendable.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, team. Thank you, judges. I'll revoke your access now, Akshat and team meeting.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Thank you.
Siddharth, yeah. Team 14, are you ready? Please raise your hand, team 14. Yeah, I see Suyash. Suyash, are you the only person that will presenting, or is the team joining?
Azad, are we on behind schedule? And by how much?
Yeah, by just one team, sir. Like
Okay.
25 minutes we are delayed.
Okay.
Okay. So team 14, I see three of the presenters. So is there anyone else joining from the team? There's okay.
Yeah, we have 5.
Okay, so I've admitted Suyash, Ayush, Swapnil, Swaran, and Pratik. Is that right? Team 14 is this team right or?
You've admitted whom?
Sorry,
You admitted whom?
I'm repeating again. Suyash, Ayush, Swapnil, Swaran, Pratik.
Yeah, 5. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, just like we can start, right?
Yes, please.
Okay. Who will be presenting the screen?
I'll be presenting the screen. Give me a second.
Okay.
Is it visible?
Yep,
Yes.
it's visible.
Perfect. So just give me a cue when I have to begin, or I can just start.
Okay. You can go 1, 2, 3, start.
Right. So hey everyone, we are Team 14 and we're here to present a solution on the PS Blue Yonder sustainable supply
Suyash,
chain.
just a second. Like you haven't presented the screen yet. Like it's not in presentation mode. Like
Yeah. That will be difficult to manage for me. So actually, just a second. Is it visible now? Give me a second.
if that's what you have planned, then it's fine with us. But
Is it good?
just state it.
Yeah. Does this work now?
No, not in presentation mode yet.
It is. Just did that. No worries. I'll do it like this. I hope that isn't the
Okay,
issue.
okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, you can start again. 1, 2, 3, start.
Right. So hey everyone, we are Team 14 and we are here to present a solution on Blue Yonder sustainable supply chain. In our primary research, we came across the fact that we came across the fact that SCUR is the most implementable model because it is a cross-industry standard and because it is easy to quantify. It is easy to quantify. Additionally, what we learned is that the supply chain holds 80% of the total 33 gigatons of greenhouse emissions from the consumer packaged goods, making it an extremely pressing point and something that we do need to address. Additionally, the current state is such that a massive reduction of 1 metric ton of carbon dioxide per $1,000 in revenue is required if we are to meet the environmental goals as laid out in the COP26 summit. Additionally, we also came across the fact that total 98% of the carbon footprint contribution of the e-commerce industry comes from packaging, transportation, and returns. Also, OECD outlined that from 2010 to 2050, the carbon dioxide emissions from transportation are expected to double, making that also extremely pressing and something that we need to address. On account of all these reasons, for the current purpose of our current scope of our PS, we will be focused on packaging as well as transportation. Now let us understand the behind-the-scenes application of a supply chain, the e-commerce supply chain through Harsha. Harsh ordered a bulb which is packaged in a box. That box is largely empty because that is the case. Then the box travels thousands of kilometers, leading to a lot of GHG emissions. And then when it is delivered on Harsh's footstep, chances are that 1 out of 5 times it will arrive damaged. That is what the current case is. Right. Now let's zero in on the packaging problems. So Indian e-commerce industry produces 56.8 million kilograms of packaging waste, and that is what was the stat in 2020. Additionally, with oversized packaging as well as unsustainable material of packaging accounts for 45% emissions overall, and is are the two most focal packaging problem statement focal points, and those are what we'll address in the next slides. Additionally, the products are damaged due to a lack of durability in packaging, and this is also something that we address. Right. Now let's move on to the solutions. There are 3 solutions in packaging. We'll begin with the first one, the oriented strand board. So we came across the stat that cardboard produced from over 700 million trees goes to waste every year. We conducted a survey to get to know the ground reality of the stat, and we found out that 95% consumers were in favor of eco-friendly packaging, and 88% were even willing to shift to a more sustainable product if they were made privy to the benefits of that product. Right. Moving on to the next slide. We also pitted reusable packaging OSB against the traditional corrugated existing box, and we found out that OSB is 77.83% more sustainable with a 5.5x more strength, making it a much more suitable option. Additionally, it is more durable, water resistant, and shock resistant, making it an extremely potent option. OSB solves the problem C number 3, 4, and 5 that was stated in underlying problems. Now let us look at the implementation of the reusable packaging boxes. So essentially what will happen is that a customer would have one box at their disposal, which would be reusable. And when the delivery partner is delivering delivering the product, it will be in one such box. And the customer will have the option to exchange the reusable packaging box that they already have at the next delivery that they make. And they can replace it with the new box that the delivery executive has brought. And that is how this will work. They can do this in a 30-day window, and if they are unable to do this, then when after the 30-day period is over, whenever a delivery executive is within a 100-meter radius of the customer, they'll be alerted of the same, and they can return the package there. Right. So let us look at the impact of the sustainable OSB and how it's important. So, sustainable OSB brings down the carbon emissions by over 77%, making it extremely potent in countering carbon emissions. Additionally, because of the more safety and shock resistance, we need less bubble wrappers and fillers, and that is something which is extremely unique to our solution and makes it really potent. They would also be safer transport, accounting for all this. Yeah. So what will happen is that we'll free up a lot of cost in the process, and a proportion of this cost will be dedicated and allocated for incentivizing customers to onboard with us and for their return for returning their packages, and that we'll incentivize them in the form of green cash. Now let us look at the second solution of packaging that we have, which is carton optimization. So essentially, there's a metric packaging factor which represents product volume upon box volume, and currently in the e-commerce space, it is 0.4. Packages are typically 60% oversized in the space. This is something that we'll address through the carton optimization solution. The solution is essentially twofold. First, we'll generate the initial optimal box size, and second, we'll reiterate the box size over and over again to obtain a more appropriate box size for a single product. And that is how it will work. This will work through reinforcement learning, and we'll reward the model positively for decreasing the box size, and we'll reward it negatively for increasing the box size. And that is essentially how it works. So we'll essentially clean the data, we'll cluster it, and then we'll use it to get more optimal box sizes. That is in a nutshell how it will work. Now let us look at the impact of the carton optimization solution. Right. So the volume of a box will decrease by more than 10% through our solution, meaning fewer trips, as there will be more boxes per trucks. and this would also lead to lower emissions in the process. And this is extremely substantial in this regard. Additionally, we'll save a lot on overheads, and lesser material is required in this particular process. Right. So what the financial would be, a 99-liter box would now be optimized to 79 liters, freeing up cost savings of 3136 INR in the process, making this extremely potent and something that we do need to that we are addressing through our solution. Now let us look at the final solution of packaging, that is T-locks. So T-locks are essentially T-shaped locking elements, and they can work in threefold ways: locking, opening, and connecting. And they exist in three states, which would be connected and locked, locked and not connected, and open. Uh, yeah. So as a general rule, the lower the freight density, the higher is shipping costs. So what we aim to accomplish through the solution is maximize or make the freight density more to account to lesser the shipping cost. Additionally, through the T-lock system, no additional cardboard packaging is required to because because the packages are already stacked up together, and that isn't an issue. Right. Now let us look at an animation to understand how the T-lock system will work. Right. So essentially, what happens is that the two boxes are closed and separated, and then they are brought together, and then the T-lock is shifted 90 degrees, and then they get connected. This is a rough prototype of how the T-lock system will work. Stacking up in this regard would increase the volumes by 33%, making four boxes, making the height to base ratio 4:1 from the current existing 3:1. Now let us look at the next leg of the supply chain that we are addressing, the transportation supply chain. So we'll begin by taking the first stakeholder in analysis, which is the fleet owners, the people who are responsible for transporting goods from location to location and own the warehouses. So essentially what these fleet owners, the major problem for these fleet owners are the scarcity of drivers, which is very rampant currently. And from 1982 to 2020, the number of drivers per 1,000 trucks has plummeted from 1310 to 480, making this an extremely grave situation, and 22% shortage has occurred in that process. This leads to overloading of trucks, which generates more emissions. Right. Some other problems that we identified in the transportation segment is the fragmentation of the industry, which means that 85% of fleet owners own just up to 20 trucks, meaning that there is a lot of fragmentation and there is no consolidation of any sort. Additionally, fuel theft occurs, due to which 8% fuel gets stolen. What this leads to is a lot of cost increase as well as a lot of emissions increase, both of which are really harmful for us and really financially make it financially unviable. Additionally, the other problems that we are addressing are aging fleet, empty running, and underutilized assets. Now let us look at it from the perspective of a driver, right? So for drivers, there are two major problems: long working hours and lack of standardization of wages. Both of these are addressed in our solutions. Let us understand as to why we went ahead with the transportation industry, right? So the freight vehicles account for a carbon footprint of 38% of total route carbon emissions, and that amounts to 104 million tons. This is the reason why we went ahead with transportation and provided solutions for that. Additionally, because there is no optimum time to renovate or recycle a vehicle part, 2.5 million vehicle parts are wasted every year, causing immense ecological damage. And that is also something that we address. Now let us look at the solutions that we have brought forth in transportation. Right. So with the first solution being relay as a service. So essentially in relay as a service, how it will work is that, suppose in the current model, a truck begins from Delhi and goes to Calcutta in one go, and the driver has to drop non-stop, taking a rest in between. In our model, however, the driver will take the truck from Delhi to a pit stop in Agra, and then he'll stop at the pit stop in Agra, and someone else would then hop into the truck and take it from Agra to the next pit stop in Jhansi, making the onus on a particular driver very less, and thus making it more feasible. This essentially is a relay race. Think of it like a relay race in which the truck is a baton, and that is how it will work. The driver, once done, will take the existing driver will take a new truck back from Agra to Delhi. Right. Now let us look at how the relay as a service pipeline will work. The trucks will be enabled with IoT sensors, which will tell the location and instruct teach them or contain information regarding the warehouses and pit stops that we have. We have 90 to 100 pit stops overall throughout the country, separated by a distance of 250 kilometers. And then a truck would begin a journey from one pit stop to another, and then relaying would take place. When I'm arriving at suppose I'm a driver, then when I'm arriving at a nearby warehouse, the new driver would be updated the same, and they can take that. The pricing would work on a feedback system. So let us now look at how we arrived at the solution, right? So essentially, what we did is that we analyzed the case of a pharmaceutical company. That company operates very inefficiently and has 30 depots and 300 warehouses. So the impact of applying RAS on this company was that inventory costs were reduced by 57.1%. and the number of depots were reduced by 33%. This led to a decrease in a lot of emissions and a lot of costs, freeing up working capital of 150 INR now, which could then be allocated for driver wages. Right. So this is a rough simulation of how how the feedback system will work. This will increase our market share and also ensure a robust SLA agreement that we had. Now let us look at the impact of the relay as a service solution. So relay as a service would mean a 139% increase in daily trucking, and that will reduce the transit time. Additionally, there will be a 70% reduction in the need for depots because there'll be more because of more efficiency in our, and this will free up a lot of working capital, which can then be allocated to driver salaries, incentivizing them to get on board with NAWCI and also ensuring that their standard of living is improved. Additionally, a single driver will drive 12.3% less, making it all the more feasible and bringing in more, solving the problem of scarcity of drivers. Now let us look at the financials of relay as a service. So in the first year, the profit margins of relay as a service will increase from 11.2% to 26.3%. And this means that there will be immense profit generated. A proportion of this profit will be earmarked for CCS system, which I'll be elaborated below. Right. Additionally, the fall in emissions would be 8.0% in the first year and 3.29% in the second year. The graphs here show the same thing represented graphically. Now let us look at the second solution of ours, that is truck health monitoring. So essentially, truck health monitoring, what will happen is that we'll have a lot of simple sensors and we'll put them in a truck and do it in an efficient manner. These sensors will provide real-time data on cargo load, pressure, fuel level, all of that, and this will mean a massive reduction in the maintenance costs as well as an increase in productivity. The sensors are shown in this diagram. Right. Additionally, the implementation will take place through a lot of sensors, as I already iterated. Yeah. So now I'll focus on the fact that impact of and now I'll try to elaborate the impact of the truck health monitoring system. So what will happen is that the greenhouse gas emissions will reduce by 10%, and this is significant in our regard, and this is really substantial. Additionally, the vehicle surrounding will spend, and the fuel consumption would also be reduced. Maintenance costs would also reduce, as I already talked about. Now let us look at the third solution of ours, which is carbon capture utilization. Essentially, what is carbon capture utilization? Carbon capture utilization is a combination of technologies that are designed to prevent the carbon dioxide emissions of ICE or conventional sources. And these, the carbon thus captured is transported to and utilized in industries such as ink or plastic, where there is huge demand. How will this work? How will Mobile CCS work? We leverage the increased efficiency of the RAS system, and we'll retrofit a device onto an existing truck, and then that device will capture the exhaust gases. The exhaust gases would then be dried and cooled, and then pass through a zeolite for selective absorption. Then the heat generated in the third step would actually be used to release the carbon dioxide in the fourth step, making it a productive use of something that would otherwise have gone to waste. And then after the final capture of CO2, it will be offloaded at many of NAWCI's pit stops. Why is it indispensable? So we believe that CCS is indispensable if we are to achieve, and if we are realistic in achieving the COP26 summit goals. So why is it so? Because if not CCS, then there will be immense pressure on alternatives, as can be seen in the without CCS graph, where the share of electric trucks increases and soars by 67% in a non-CCS environment, with the peak with net zero being assumed at 2050. Additionally, realizing the potential of the current thing, a lot of players like Dalmia Cement are already making up pilot projects for the same. The IPCC also echoed our fact and said that without CCS, the cost incurred will be 140% more to achieve the climate goals. Now let us look at carbon utilization demand. So carbon utilization demand is manifold, and considering the fact that India is the second leading producer, we can leverage the cement demand. Cured carbon cement has superior performance, lower manufacturing costs, and reduces the carbon footprint by 80%, making it a very potent option and something that will appeal to cement players all across the country. Additionally, we can also use enhanced oil recovery, which will, in which oil is extracted from mature fields using carbon dioxide, and we can also use an existing urea yield boosting and all. Right. So yeah. So we conducted an interview with Mobile CCS with Eric Harding, the Chief Engineering Officer at Remora Carbon, and here are the findings. So the EVs cost 5 to 10 times more in comparison to CCUS, and the energy cost is 1/4 lesser in that. And 28 Remora trucks can in a day in a shift in a day cover as much capture as much carbon as the largest direct air capture plant that exists. This makes it a really suitable alternative with a lot of capturing capacity. Let's look at the impact of CCUS. So we'll generate INR 26.1 lakh, and the payback period for the truck will be 2.75 years, meaning that it will pay itself off, making it an extremely feasible solution.
Last 30 seconds remaining.
Yeah. So let us look at how this will be implemented. So this will essentially be implemented. The packaging would be implemented in years 1 and 2 by gathering the data and starting manufacturing OSB. We'll do it in tier 1 cities and we'll offer them benefits in green cash. We'll also implement an ML model to do the same. We'll analyze the results of ML model to make more better boxes, and we'll keep on focusing on solutions like smart warehousing and forklifts. For transportation, what we'll do is that we'll focus on NAWCI partners, and we'll get make the conglomerate bigger. We'll free up a lot of working capital and reduce inventory needs across the
Suyash,
warehousing
please
and the
conclude in next 10 seconds.
yeah, the RAS will increase the profit, which will be earmarked for CCS, and then the CCS will capture a lot of carbon, which can be deployed, and this will bring in a lot of large scale profit, and that can be used to for the same. We reevaluate the internal situation. We'll consider the possibility of inland waterways in the end, and the impact of it is significant, as you can see in this slide. With that, I'd like to end the presentation.
Okay. Thank you, team. Judges, if you have any questions, doubt, and query, you can ask.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions, and then probably Rajiv, you may have, right? First of all, excellent capture of the problems, solutions. I mean, identification of the areas that you think are important, and then proposing a solution, and a lot of analysis data, which is very well done, right? So kudos to the team. On the T-lock system, I had a couple of questions. One is your proposal is that you are kind of going to stack the boxes by plus putting more boxes into the in a track, right? When you do that, is there a risk of damage to the box which is at the bottom? And will there be some challenges from that perspective?
The T-lock system will be initiated along with OSBs, and OSBs are extremely durable as they have almost 8 full tensile strengths. So the damaged, which will be because of T-lock in corrugated boxes, will not be with OSB boxes.
Right. To add to that, through the T-lock system, the height to base ratio will increase from 4 to 1, and that is the current case that exists from the 3 to 1 that exists currently. So there would be no damage whatsoever.
Okay. And a follow-up question that is, have you guys thought about? I mean, I understood that the dimensions of the box have to be same, right, for this model to work. But what if your box sizes are of varied sizes? How would it work?
Okay, am
Yes.
I audible? Hello, am I audible?
Yes.
Okay, okay. So, what we plan to do is that uh, if the size of the box is pretty large, so we can um, like bucket all the boxes into three categories. One is very large, one is medium, and one is small. So what we can do is that in the large boxes there would be two T-locks, and in the medium boxes and in the small boxes there would be only one T-lock, and the medium boxes can be like two medium boxes can be stacked upon one large box, and like four small boxes can be stacked upon one medium box. So we can do it like that. Did you get my point?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Got it. Thank you. Rajiv, you have any?
Yeah. So one thing I gotta say, this is the first team which had 65 slides. Okay. Uh, you you actually have a lot of ideas that you had to present, and a lot of interesting ideas. So I think kudos to you guys on actually thinking and spending so much time on this. So thank you for that. Um, some interesting learning for us as well from whatever you have presented. I will say that you guys should think about condensing information when you're presenting, when you know your the time available for your presentation. I think you could not cover a lot of things uh, because of the amount of content you had. I, from a question standpoint, on the carton optimization, right? The, the the challenge I kind of feel is that it's not always as much about uh, the choice of box being made It's more about who's doing the packaging. Is that person actually looking at the preferred option and using that, or even if the appropriate size is available handily to actually consume, to use. um, I mean, definitely there will be aspects where what you have said may happen, that they've just the recommendation itself is wrong. But quite often it's very visually evident that the recommendation is wrong, and if the person involved in doing the packaging is trained enough, they'll probably override the recommendation and pick a better one already. So there's a little bit more thought needs to go into how do you ensure you have all the boxes available and you have the right combination of sizes defined. I think you mentioned Amazon has what 38 or some number. Uh, it's something to look at. I mean, Amazon obviously trying to figure out what's the best combination. How can you improve that? Availability of combinations is something to think about. Okay. Um the question I have is on the truck health monitoring. What's the cost analysis of that? Because
Right.
fitting those
So
truck health monitoring systems can be expensive.
right.
Have you guys looked at that?
Yeah. So I think I can answer that. So for our relay as a service model, we'll obviously be installing IoT enabled sensors itself in the truck. And alongside that, it shall also be facilitating our truck health monitoring. Now, based on analysis of what all sensors we shall be needing, we estimate that a cost of 6,000 INR per year will be required. So if you could go to the slide of financials of RAAS, I think it's around 40. 41. Right. So if you look at before that, in maintenance, we have rupees 4,08,000 in the cost, and in year one for maintenance we have 4,14,000. So it has been factored in to the cost of the cost of IoT enabled sensors have been factored into the whole scenario, and the profits have been
Oh,
calculated accordingly.
so this is RAS includes the IoT piece as well.
Right, because when we are facilitating RAS, we also need to, live track the truck so that the drivers can get notified when the truck is nearby. So essentially, the sensor will be used there as well. So we factored in the cost for those additional sensors as well in the same model itself.
So the initial cost, upfront cost, is what as per this?
It's around 6,000 rupees per year if we assume that we'll be using the same
No.
the
I'm
sensor
talking
for the
about the
year.
I'm asking about the upfront cost, right? Initial fitting of the whole thing, making sure everything is working fine, and then releasing
Right,
the truck for actual usage. So
right.
that
That's
that one is
6,000
6,000.
only.
Okay,
Yes.
that's good. Okay.
Uh, Judge, could you repeat the initial question you had regarding carton optimization? That's it.
Yeah, I was just talking about whether the thing is a lot of supply chain problems are not necessarily uh, tools problems. It is also a process and people problem.
Right. So for that process, we'll find the sweet spot between simplicity and optimization, and that is how we work to do that. And that will occur through the number of iterations in carton optimization, making the carton boxes more appropriate for the product size.
I would just like to add something. The model that we have trained will also be learning with the data that it's getting. So as the model is trained, it can also recommend the size that is to be made so that we can make necessary changes and then use it.
Moreover, we came upon this phenomenon, which is the packaging and the cluster size trade-off. So in our current model, the number of variants of boxes that we are manufacturing is equal to the number of clusters we have of our products that we have calculated. So accordingly, we will manufacture the OSB boxes sizes based on the clusters that we have. And as we increase the number of clusters, we are increasing the number of box variants. At the same time, we have to streamline the manufacturing of OSB boxes based on those clusters. So we are going to find the sweet spot between the packaging factor and the cluster sizes so that we'll get the optimal number of clusters for our particular box sizes and products.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Hey, just one quick question on the last thing. I think it's CCUP or something, right?
Carbon capture.
Yeah. So that was a good thought in the sense you also identified where the uh, the CO can actually be put to use. But I'm just thinking, have you really looked at the practicality and feasibility of the implementation, or it's like more theoretical at this point?
Yeah. So we've actually looked at the practicability and the feasibility of it, and that is why that is something that we also accounted for in the finances. And I'll just show that. Right. So in the finances, we've accounted for the CCS unit, and yeah. So as I said, key a part of the profit that is generated from that would actually be earmarked for CCS construction. So we identified that and we did that.
Okay, all right, yeah. Just one last question. I think Rajiv briefly touched upon this, right? Many of these things, you have a one-time capital investment and then a recurring cost, right? So when you in your financial models, have you also included that? Because or this is probably, I don't know if it is included into the capital sections. Like for example, the for the CCUT, right? I would assume that you will require some amount of initial investments required.
Right. So I think I can answer that. So, like we had mentioned, RAS will increase the profit margins of fleet owners from 11% to up to 30.2% the second year of running. So essentially, what we'll be doing is that we'll be, earmarking a certain portion of that profit as suppose like a CSR fund, and then in the same slide you can see in the at below in the red and green slide, a certain segment of the capital investment shall be paid off from the CSR fund that the fleet owner has, which shall give them 66% ownership. And then NAWCI will be paying up for 33%. NAWCI Corporation shall be paying up for 33% of the cost. And in 2.75 years, we'll be just making up for the whole cost of it. And after that, it's just pure revenue. So in the longer run of things, it is an extremely sustainable choice.
Okay, all right, yeah, thanks. That clarifies.
Okay, thank you, judges. Thank you, team. I guess now I'll be revoking the access.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for all the feedback. It is very
Thank you so
appreciated.
much.
Thank you for educating us as well.
Thank you. So yeah. Team 19, please raise your hand. Yeah, okay. I'm admitting team 19 now.
So Azad, this is the last team, right? Team 19?
Yes, yeah, yes, sir. It's the last team and team 19. So 4 of you are there, right? Is someone else also joining?
No, there are 5 people. Wait, let me see who have not joined. Yeah, there's also Srushti Jadhav.
Like, can you ask her to raise her hand?
Sure. She's saying that her hand is not getting raised. It's a technical problem. She's clicking the button again and again. Please admit her if you can see it from the participants. Her initials are SR in the participant tab.
Okay, just a second. What's her name? SR. Okay.
Yeah, Srushti Jadhav.
Invite to stage. Srushti, tell her that I've invited. Okay, she has joined.
Yes.
Okay. Is she there or?
Srushti, is your mic working? Can you please confirm so that we can proceed? She's still not on the stage, I guess. We will continue without her if it takes time. Let me ask her once.
No, I've accepted her. I think it's problem at her side. So yeah, like it's already being delayed from your team. You can just start the presentation.
Sure. Can I present?
Yeah, you can present.
Is my presentation visible?
Yes. Uh,
Okay.
just it's visible, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Team 19, you can start in 3, 2, 1. Go.
Okay. So the good morning, everyone. The past years have seen a tremendous shift in mindset for major companies and industries in terms of growing momentum to be more accountable and proactive towards building a sustainable and green business model. 1 out of 10 companies in India are already tracking their sustainability, and thus this calls for a need to build actionable plans to build a zero emissions economy. And as per the requirements of NAWCI, we have split the problem into three main aspects through a holistic approach, which we'll be tackling separately. First being warehousing, the next being packaging, and the final one being transportation. Through proper analysis and end-to-end solutions for each of the big issue in supply chain, we'll proceed with warehousing by beginning with Karthik. Karthik, you can start.
Thank you. Emissions in warehousing sector are due to the inefficiencies related to the whole process. For this, we propose a centralized blockchain along with the already existing IoT tracking methods to mainly tackle three main problems. First of all, to undertake all the transactions in between transactions which are usually done by the 3PL solutions in the form of smart contracts on the blockchain. So these have proven to increase the efficiency by 30% because they are really very fast compared to the traditional methods. Second, we will create data sets for products using the NAWCI's network of warehouses, and we will implement it using the blockchain and connect all those warehouses together through this blockchain. So it will like automate the flow of products. So it will be like a baseline version of what is being nowadays known as quote unquote predictive shipping. So can we move to the next slide? So yes, from similar existing and proposed models, this centralized blockchain will, first of all, it will take the place in the intermediate transactions and will give a 15% boost in efficiency, which will decrease the delivery time and then hence ultimately lower the carbon emission per product. Second, it will also help in automation of the supply chain. By automation of the supply chain, I mean that rather than sending out products according to the delivery like demand, they will be sold out like uh, through an automated predefined model. Then third, warehouse management will be more better with automation with the help of IoT and robotic solution, because this time the warehouse inventory stocking would not be on a local level using the traditional inventory management software, but using this blockchain we can be able to categorize using like through by taking a look at all the network of warehouses and then determining which product has to be sent where. And then finally, warehouses can also utilize a huge untapped potential in form of renewable energy, which will be explained later on. Also, yes, warehouse storage will be utilized more judicially, and they can be stocked according to the product's movement in through these warehouses. So now handing over to Ankita.
One of the major factors that contributes to the greenhouse gas emissions in warehousing is the energy production. So, a lot of companies and institutions are still using the traditional methods of energy production, which is not just inefficient, but it also leads to a large amount of carbon emissions. This is a largely untapped market when it comes to rooftop solar. So the government is also coming up with various schemes and subsidies to push companies towards using their warehousing spaces for solar power and solar energy production. So as you can see, large warehouses have a potential of about 1 to 2 megawatts of rooftop solar projects, which can generate up to 1.5 million units per year. And you can also see the data that shows that the energy generated by photovoltaic system at about 60% of the roof surface can produce a large chunk of the total energy requirements. So can I have the next slide? Amazon India is also investing heavily in rooftop solar across the country. They are coming up with they are installing the systems in their warehousing and sorting facilities and also their community care centers. And they're moving towards their long-term goal of powering their global infrastructure with 100% renewable energy. And you can also see Big Basket's example. With a total installed capacity of 1.2 megawatts, they have been able to reduce their carbon emissions by almost 430 tons. And not just this, they have also saved about 4.9 million rupees using these systems, which goes on to prove that it not just helps them cut down their carbon emissions, but also helps them in cutting down on their costs and also build a better perception for the brand. Now handing over to Janmeet.
Yeah, so as per the prompt statement, I would be discovering the MAQ framework followed in the warehousing sector. First, there is measurable profit and revenue impact as discussed by Ankita through solar savings and green energy. Next, there is savings in paperless categorization and interconnectivity of all the warehouses, which will reduce the overall burden on the supply chain through the concept of blockchain and implementation of IoT. And blockchain might sound to be a little bit complex, but the thing is that KPMG and McKinsey India have already studied that how blockchain can help NAWCI companies, which is the middle and larger income companies, to cut down their logistics in a more sustainable manner with a lot of profits and more transparency among the all the stakeholders. Moreover, there will be actionable initiatives as discussed, as all our members are part of FMCG community. Their products movements will be planned and more effectively using data flow, and implementing smart lighting solutions also one better investment. Next, talking about quantifiable and predictable benefits, as Karthi explained, we'll be saving a lot. We will drastically reduce the waste generated at these warehouses, accounting for almost 0.45 kg of waste per 100 square feet in the US by the same method implemented before in the foreign countries. Moreover, carbon emissions will already reduce due to products journey to the consumer, less energy consumption, and warehouse stocking will be more efficient. Now, moving on to packaging. So packaging status quo right now is that plastic is the main product involved packaging through plastic bubble wraps, bags, casings, tapes, and moreover petroleum inks for printing and styrofoam containers. 11.9% of the carbon footprint comes from packaging alone, and in CPG market is expected to grow at a rate of 5.3%. It's a very huge concern that how we replace our packaging in a more sustainable manner. So if we talk about disposal, 79% of packaging is disposed in landfills, and only 12% goes to the plastic waste management. Only 9% out of it gets recycled. So this is a huge concern for us. To meet our sustainable targets, we need to replace this in a quite fashionable and doable manner. To talk about that, let's move to our key strategies for a better packaging replacement. First is sustainable inks for printing. So vegetable oil based inks or soy inks can be used instead of petroleum based inks. First thing is they would be cost effective as they are used in lesser amounts due to their high brightness and intensity of colors. Next is they are reusable on every kind of materials, be it cartons or cloth. Next is cushioning paper, which will be the replacement of bubble wrap used in deliveries of online systems. The cushioning paper has greater possibility of reducing carbon emissions due to 100% recycled paper linked through absorbent. Next, talking about paper tape. Paper tape is already put to use by some of the companies like Samsung or Panasonic. So this paper tape, widely known as water activated tape, is also waterproof and can be insured during delivery rather than using a plastic or cell phone tape. Next, talking about choosing sustainable raw materials. Plastic, paper, and cardboard are most common packaging materials, but we can replace them using more sustainable products by a huge analysis on the supply chain. Talking about saving resources, we'll be analyzing the packaging dimension closely and rather do a tight boot space packing. Now talking about the return process. So return process, almost 30% of the online purchases are returned, which accounts to about $27 billion return, out of which 9% is a loss of return. That's $2.5 billion loss. So there's a lot of carbon emission contribution due to this, as 9% of goes to waste, and around 50% remain damaged or the condition and in open boxes. In case of even warehousing, transportation, and packaging sector, return concerns all three due to the reverse logistics cycle it follows. So to give it a better solution, we can use reusable packaging, and already two startups like Repack and Maintain. Our main aim would be to implement NAWCI sector, where merchandise can be stored locally and shipped directly, and can be repacked in the same package without it being wasted. Next is warehousing. Warehousing can be done in such a manner that it can be consolidated with a network of warehouses for bulk reverse shipping rather than storing it in a specific warehouse. Next is our milkman model, where products should be delivered at a door in a container, which empty container can be picked up later in a reverse logistical cycle by washed, refilled, and reached for delivery to another customer. So milkman model is quite a fashionable idea. Now moving on to transportation, handing over to Hardik.
Yeah. So, for a supply chain to be deemed effective, the transportation segment must be managed efficiently. It involves the delivery of the products from the start to the end of a supply chain. So, in the first part of distribution of products from the plant to distribution centers, transportation is mainly done by trucks. Hence, our plan will be to minimize their footprints. So, according to a 2004 study by Environmental Protection Agency, 23% of all the greenhouse gas emissions come from the heavy and medium duty trucks. Also, another study by Freightway found that the average trucker drives around 120 miles per year, and which accounts for 400 miles per day, 6 days a week, and 50 weeks a year, which generates around 238 tons of CO2 from a single truck. So, hence, our proposed solution to this problem will be the truck platooning. Truck platooning is the linking of two or three trucks in a convoy. These trucks closely follow each other at set distance, and one vehicle leads the other and is linked through wireless communication Wi-Fi. So, it reduces the CO2 emission by 10%, which means a single truck which generates 238 tons of CO2 can reduce around 23.8 tons of CO2 emission. It also eliminates human reaction as there is no reaction time. It also optimizes road transportation, and there is a reduction in aerodynamic drag, which also saves the fuel. Next slide. Yeah, so here is this figure one, which shows the mechanism of truck platooning. So driver in the first truck is leading the convoy, which may be two or three trucks. The lead vehicles is linked to the platoon via wireless communication, and there is coupling and decoupling to allow other road users to cross between the platoon vehicles as shown by the gap, and the incorporated vehicles detection, anti-collision, and lateral control technologies for the safety. Below is a case study which was done by the European Commission, and the left figure shows the distribution centers of the trucks all across the Europe, and on the right side is the profit which was generated by incorporating truck platooning in this case study. Next slide. So yeah, in the recent years, several drone deliveries companies have started to gain traction in various transportation industries. Drone can be delivered in two ways. The first one of which is artificial intelligence, and they can also be manually operated by the pilots. And they are only being utilized in extremely, as of now, they are being only utilized in extremely limited capacity at this point. While drones are not advanced enough to economically carry packages long distance, they can still expedite the delivery processes, and they do this by transporting lightweight products for the final mile of shipping route. So as of now, delivery method is being tested in a few selected cities across the globe, but in the next expected 5 years, it is expected to grow in significant amount, and it has main three aspects, which is high CGR. So the current market in 2020 was around US dollars 241 million dollars, and it is expected to grow at a rate of 57.55 CGR. And India is also expected to be the third largest market, with Ministry of Civil Aviation investing around rupees 120 crores in this, and is also expected a high revenue, and it generated around 4.9 billion US dollars in 2030. Next slide. Yeah, so as I told with the vision, India is supposed to be the third largest market for the drone delivery, and in the right side figure shows the projected global drone delivery market size by 2030. And these three are the types of wings that we use in the drones: hybrid, fixed, and rotary wings. It is sustainable in remote areas. This is highly sustainable in remote areas where land deliveries are difficult, and also an efficient drone delivery network will not only save the problems of reachability, but will also be sustainable. Next slide. So yeah, here was a case study done in Virginia and Rwanda. So in Virginia Tech generated this case study results, and the drone delivery will serve around 50.7% of the total population in the next 5 years, and it may recover around 23 to 45.9 million dollars in time savings for the consumer using drones. Also, it could generate 25 to 73,000 dollars per year in additional sales for the participating retail businesses. And while coming to the safety, it could prevent around as many 28 to 46 car crashes per every year. And on the right side, there was this case study which was made by the Zipline, a private company in Rwanda, while developing their around 2 lakh deliveries of blood and vaccine during this COVID times. And while coming to this cost of drone deliveries, calculating the exact drone delivery cost may be challenging, but many companies like Amazon believe that they will be able to implement drone deliveries in a cost-efficient manner in near future. And their goal is to drive the per unit delivery cost to around $1 or less per package. So for the next slide, I would like to invite Janmeet.
Yeah, so our next idea in the case of traveling would be expressway for logistics. As you would know, that National Highway Authority of India has constituted a logistics subsidiary, that is National Highway Logistics Management Company. It would be transferred and already transferred existing 9 contracts to the arm. So the things that would help us here would be revenue and fuel saving, since the interconnectivity between ports and roads will lead to a lot of ease while traveling and a lot of time reduction
Last 20 seconds,
for
guys.
logistics. More of first mile connectivity will help port-led development, and LEAP, that is logistics efficient enhancement project by the road transport and highways, will help us deliver across 15 locations in India with the help, ease. Now talking about LTL and partial truckload drivers, there would be a dedicated application to keep track of LTL, since there are many trucks in India that are partially filled or have very low transport. So truck boot space can be maximized by
Team, please
enabling
wrap up
better
in next
revenue
10
to
seconds.
their connectivity, and a proper community of truck drivers nearby, which can be tracked through supplier partnership and better application cost, which will save cost of supplier, as they will only pay for the space shipment is occupying. Thank you. We are open to questions, the panel.
Okay, thank you, team. Judges, if you have any questions, you may ask.
Hey, good presentation. I have a question around you talked about truck convoy, right? And I think you quoted European landscape. Any feasibility done in the for the India conditions that you are aware of?
No, sir. As of now, there hasn't been any step taken towards in the Indian subcontinent, and all the studies that were done in the European content only.
Hey, so Rajiv here. So, uh, great presentation, and I think uh, I really liked some of the specific ideas that you have put in there. Uh, I like the milkman model. So, I mean, it would be interesting to know why that has not become more prevalent across the board. I know Amazon doesn't do the milkman model even now, at least in my area, right? So it's
Yes, sir.
an interesting question. Hold on. If you know the answer, we'll talk about it. But right, my bigger question, right? On one side, you've talked about a paperless, blockchain model for tracking and having alignment on across all the supply chain. But on the packaging side, you're talking of actually going to cushion paper. So we're going to introduce more paper in there. Uh, I mean, what is the math behind the cushion paper thing versus the plastic thing, and impact analysis on that front? Why not talk about not recyclable, but I mean, environmentally green packaging of some different kind? Why paper?
Sure, sir. So the thing is, first I will tackle your milkman model question. The milk, as of the concern comes to milkman model, there is a model in which containers are used, reusable containers are used, which can be picked up later. So huge concern for Indian companies is that the reverse logistics cycle is too huge. But if we analyze it properly, the return process is already a lot of burden, and the packaging that is done later in the warehouses to the returned items, especially in e-commerce site where clothes are returned due to improper size, or product is returned due to improper color or packaging and is repackaged again, milkman model comes to a lot of feasibility. So the thing is that Swiggy has already started implementing it due to the lot of carry bags they were that were being wasted under their Instamart model. So the thing is, not now what they do is they hand you a paper bag with a security deposit of 10 rupees in the first order of Instamart, and next time if you return the paper, return not the cloth bag, they have ended in first time, the 10 rupees will not be deducted again. They would just keep on doing it in a cycle for each customer who is and in this way a recurring revenue is even generated as a customer becomes a trustful member of the organization, just like the local hawkers which sell vegetables through a single carry bag or stuff. So this trustful model can be implemented highly in local serviceable or hyper local models, which is all which is feasible by a lot of FMCG companies in India right now, since there are warehouses, there are huge warehouses in each and every of state right now. Taking an example, Amazon or Big Basket, which Ankita already talked about for solar panel system. Now moving on to the next question about bubble wraps. So the thing is, we implemented blockchain in a very specific manner, such that they put a ease on the logistics pattern, the interconnectivity and transparency of all the vehicles, and tracking all the cycle of a product from end to end. This is already done by some of the companies like OpenSC for fish or poultry market in foreign countries, which is not so prominent in India. That's why we didn't use that model, but we have specified it according to Indian market. And it cannot remove the existing need of wrapping or packaging in such a way, since some of the items that are shipped are fragile to a lot of extent, such as electronics or glassware items by Amazon. So they are put by bubble wrap. So we cease to remove the use of bubble wrap, as bubble wrap is not at all eco-friendly and wholly made of plastic, by cushioning paper, as you talked about. So sir, cushioning paper is not exactly paper that so it's not under the non-sustainable category, and cushioning paper is recyclable to such extent that it can come under the category of corrugated packing, where it is layered again and again, and once it's used, it can be recycled again and again, put into layers with some of the new ones and some of the old ones. So they are so in this manner, cushioning paper is feasible to a lot of extent than the other eco-friendly options. Since other eco-friendly options in the industry are not monetarily feasible for any WCI companies, and will ultimately lead to more expenses from our side.
Thank
So
you.
most eco-friendly and
Thank you.
expensive one.
Yep.
Yes.
Thank you. And again, thank you for the overall presentation.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, team. Thank you, judges.
Thank
So, team, I'm revoking your access from the stage.
Sure.
Yeah. Thank you. Hello, judges.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'll just pause the session and we'll go. Just a second.